Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost that time. Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David Snyder checking in. Welcome to Secrets of Face Reading for Fun and Profit, how to decode anyone in about 7 seconds or less. Tonight, we're going to be covering one of my favorite topics that has worked alongside a lot of my other skill sets and had just made it better. And that is the art and science. And I do say science of face reading. The content for tonight is all about helping you take things out into the world that can make your life easier, faster, and better. And so one of the things that I love to do when I'm beginning to teach this material is I try to target it a little bit more. Today, I'm going to try and emphasize some of the more I don't want to use the word earthy. I don't want to sound negative when I say it, but let's look at some of the how can we really speed read people? What are the main features that can give us a really quick profile of human beings? And those features are largely going to be the size and shape of the head, and not necessarily is it an oval shape or is it a square, but rather the size of it, the proportions of it. Then we're going to look at the eyebrows themselves. We're going to talk about how the eyebrows can tell us how easygoing a person is or how not. We're going to look at the eyes themselves. And again, we don't have time to do every single trait or go super deep into everything. But the idea here is to give you some very fast, very quick ways that you can look at somebody and in a few seconds have a working idea of how to approach and deal with this person, if that makes any kind of sense. So my webinars traditionally are not standard traditional webinars. So I want to just get some administrative stuff out of the way first. First thing I want to do, though, is I want to pop my chat for my Zoomers out there. So those of you coming in from Zoom land, please, if you're a first timer, please type in your name and where you're checking in from. If you're not a first timer, type in your name, where you're checking in from, and how long you've been a citizen of Planet David, so to speak. For my beloved extended Zoom family, I'm here for you too. So if you're watching us through Zoom, there's about a 45 to 60-second delay between what I say and here in the Zoom platform shows up on your feed, but our chat is in real time. So by all means, type your questions in the chat. That being said, if this is the scope of everything that there is to cover tonight, right? I got time for this. So I promise you that I will take you as far into this topic as I can, and I will point you in the direction of where to go to level up your training and get the whole enchilada, as my by proxy mentor Dan Kennedy likes to say. That being said, we have a lot of people checking in from all over the world. We've got Trinidad, we've got Australia, we've got Toronto, New York City is its own country, right? All right. So, but again, as much as every time I create a webinar, right, I have an idea of what I want to talk about. But every time I get onto the webinar with you, it's no longer my webinar. It's your webinar. That being said, what I want to know most is how I can specifically target the content of tonight's webinar. And you're going to find out that I'm highly allergic to PowerPoints. Face reading is a very visual science and art, so that we'll be bouncing back and forth between at various points. But for the most part, you're going to be looking at my ugly mug for a good chunk of the training. So I hope that's okay. First and foremost, so let's get down to some administrative first. First of all, you know what? Let me just jump to my PowerPoint just so I can stay on track and talk about why I'm qualified to actually teach you about this stuff. So let me go to my screen share. And I'm going to try something new today. We'll see how this works. Hey, can you see me? Yay. All right. So first and foremost, face reading will allow you to do a lot of the things you see on the screen behind me here. You'll discover very, very quickly as you go deeper and deeper into the face reading material, how people think and feel and behave. You'll learn how to read people's emotional repressed emotions. As you get deeper into the more advanced master level face reading, we'll also teach you about something called micro expressions. Micro expressions are tiny little micro movements that happen in the moment. So we, in our face reading system, which is a combination of modern scientific face reading based on peer-reviewed research, as well as with thousands of years of Chinese medical observational science, has taught us about how these different facial traits relate to the various organ systems, how those various organ systems relate to various emotions, and how those emotions relate to certain types of behaviors and temperaments. So there's a very long history of face reading, and most cultures, the older cultures especially, have some kind of face reading tradition. Now, this should not be confused with a pseudoscience known as phrenology, which was developed by aspiring criminologists back in, I think it was the 1800s, which was all about feeling the bumps on your head and saying that people who have misshapen or asymmetrical faces are automatically criminalistic. That's just, it's scientifically, it doesn't bear out that way. However, nature's not an idiot. Okay. One of the things we have noticed is that there is a correlation between facial symmetry and health and emotional stabilities. So that being said, and if you guys want, I will give you a rather long list of the scientific studies that are actually proving this. Did you know, fun factoid, science, that narcissism can be detected in the eyebrow? Right? Again, we may talk about that today. We'll see. I'm teasing you with it, right? But if you want to learn, and now you can take all of these things that we're talking about, look at any human being and instantly know how they're more likely to respond in any given situation or circumstance. And most importantly, perhaps, what their hot buttons may be and how to influence and persuade those people. Quick question, if you could look at somebody and know in a fraction of a second how they are most likely to go about making a decision, do you think that might give you an advantage in presenting your product or service, in presenting an opportunity for people, right? The face can show us in very, very simple ways how to structure our presentation to get the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time. You're going to hear me refer to the 7-second window multiple times throughout this webinar. And there's the 7-second window has two sides to it. How many people here, by a show of that's me in the chat, have ever heard of something called a first impression? Anybody? Just type it in the chat. Like everybody's going, duh, David, right? Okay, here's the thing you need to understand. There is a set, the first impression is formed within the first 7 seconds of meeting another human being. In other words, the minute you enter the room and make eye contact with them, or they lay eyes on you, it's probably a better way to say it. The moment they lay eyes on you, the clock starts running. Their first impression of you is formed in 7 seconds. If you can own that 7 seconds, everything else you want to do in terms of influence, persuasion, attraction, connection gets exponentially easier. If you blow that 7-second window, you've got to work harder to get into that person's good headspace. Okay, so that's one aspect of the 7-second window, right? The other side of that 7-second window is that as we make eye contact with someone, as we lay eyes on somebody, if we just look at a few key things, we can extrapolate very, very quickly how to deal with this person, right? So first thing that we want to look at is how wide and symmetrical is their head. We want to look at their eyebrows. Are they close together? Are they far apart? We want to look at their eyes. Are they small, held closed, wide, or held open, right? Is the mouth, is it big and wide and full, or is it small and narrow and thin, or some combination thereof? These are the things we look at in the first 7 seconds that will tell us things like how open they are, how they deal with authority, how suspicious they might be, how emotionally expressive they might be, how generous they are, how easygoing and open to expressing themselves, how sensual they might be. These are all things that we can know just from that. And again, trust me, it's the tip of a very large iceberg, right? If you want to be able to measure people's sexual romantic capacities, things of that nature, right? This is a really good way to do it, okay? So that being said, why am I Well, first of all, I am an actual doctor. So let me just go through what I lovingly call the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show, right? I am an actual doctor. This is a copy of my degree from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I got a doctorate in Chinese acupuncture or acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I've had a practice in Solana Beach for the last, well, since 2005, really, where my focus has been treating physiological illness that is caused by repressed emotion, right? There's me sporting a little cool beard and stuff like that. I almost wore that vest today too, right? So I am an actual doctor of medicine. I studied with my teacher in face reading was a woman named Lillian Pearl Bridges. She was the world's leading authority on Chinese face reading. Her book is Face Reading in Chinese Medicine, from which a lot of this material initially is drawn from. But we're not done there. In 2020, I was named the #1 NLP trainer in the world by globalgurus.org. I've been the #2 NLP trainer in the world for the last 9 years, right? Only the great Bandler consistently pops me out. He's just got more followers than I do. What can I tell you? I've authored over 15 different products in various forms of human influence, everything from dating and attraction to using conversation hypnosis for healing, pain control, negotiation, mediation. I've worked with law enforcement. I've worked with military. I've worked with intelligence people all over the world on how to use what we call strategic human influence technologies to get things that you want. We have some of the most powerful and effective courses on transformation on the planet. We have the fastest, strongest track record of being able to teach people to go from 0 to hero in terms of coaching and transformation in a very short amount of time. I'm very proud of that. And so this is just a little bit about where we are at, right? Face reading has been a huge, huge asset to all of those techniques. And that's why I love face reading so much. It is what we call a force multiplier. If you have the tools and skills of influence that we might teach in Killer Influence or CPI or Defense Against the Dark Arts, or even real world hypnosis for that matter, then face reading takes everything you know and exponentially multiplies the power of it, right? It's like putting a laser targeting guided missile system on a bullet. It's like, it just follows you wherever you go, right? It's just really powerful. What you're seeing here is a letter we got. I actually got one for 2023. I haven't been able to find it. From globalgurus.org saying, it's great, Dr. David, it is with great pleasure to announce that your training program, Killer Influence, has been chosen by global peers and ranked as the #1 best program in the world for NLP in 2022. We received one for 2023 for our derivative of Killer Influence, which is called Defense Against the Dark Arts, which we'll be talking about in this training, right? As you can see here, we have this is 2021. We've got a little bit of a track record here, right? This is 2023, right? Defense Against the Dark Arts. So the things I'm going to be sharing with you tonight are taught also in Defense Against the Dark Arts. Some of them are drawn from Defense Against the Dark Arts. Defense Against the Dark Arts is our ability to teach you how to use these face reading skills, eye accessing cues, micro expressions, body shifts, pivots, behavioral leans, things of that nature for lie detection, being able to really develop a powerful profile of people so you can influence them, or, as is often the case with Defense Against the Dark Arts, to not be influenced by people against your will or without your consent. Everything we do is about ethical influence, but it's also about empowering people to protect themselves against unethical influence. And that's, again, part of what I want to touch on with you guys today is how do we look at somebody and say, well, these people might have a little bit more, we might need to be a little bit more cautious around these people. Not that you can tell a person's character from facial. Let me just put that out there right now. You can't you can't tell if a person's evil or a saint from their face, unless there's a freaking big ass light shining from below their skin, which usually means that they're a little bit more on the divine side, right? We call that charisma. But what you can do is you can get their attitude and their temperament, and from that temperament and from a detailed profile on their behaviors, you can begin to extrapolate, is this somebody that I want to give more access to my life or not, right? We have whole courses on that, but this, again, face reading is one of those places where we can gain instant insight into the psychology of another human being in a functional way that is right more often than it isn't. So little more background on me. I have a 10th degree black belt in Ryukyu Kempo Karate. Now, why would I even mention that in a face reading seminar? There's two reasons, really. The first introduction I ever had to face reading was actually through the martial arts. Now, Ryukyu Kempo is an art that has within it two smaller arts that deal with energetics and nerves. Specifically, the art is called Tuite Jitsu and Kyusho Jitsu, literally the art of vital point striking or 1 second fighting, depending on what interpretation that you want to use. Now, one of the things that I had to do as part of my training to learn how to use acupuncture points and meridians and things for self-defense was I had to learn how to look at a person's face and determine where the energy was strongest and where it was weakest, so I could get a quick indication of where the nerves in that person were most sensitive and vulnerable to being attacked for self-defense purposes. So that was actually the martial art. This is actually an extension of my martial arts training, and even the acupuncture and oriental medicine that I do for healing and all these other things. It started with the martial arts. So I'm very much, you have to understand, there's no theory here. It's all tactical, tested material, right? You know, as a martial artist, you get out on the floor and you test your stuff, and it either works or it doesn't, right? So here I have very little, what am I saying? A very little tolerance for low percentage technique. So I'm going to give you the stuff that I take out into the field every day and use. And then if you use these, this is going to move the needle of your life forward in the direction you want to go. As you can see here, I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kun Tao, 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo, 1st degree black belt in Fankuru Jiu-Jitsu. I'm certified in Combat Sistema, Cinco Mano Street. You can see I got more energy work than McDonald's sells hamburgers, right? Why am I even sharing this with you? Because for those of you who are brand new to Planet David, you need to know where this is coming from. You need to know that there's no, I'm not making this up, right? I've done the work, so to speak, right? And so that you can have a little bit more confidence, not faith or belief. By the way, let me stress something very, very important. And I usually say it at the beginning of the webinar, I forgot this time. I don't need you to believe a single thing that I'm going to share with you tonight. You don't have to believe it. You just got to take the techniques, go out into the world and use it and calibrate the results yourself and decide if it's worth keeping or not. As Bruce Lee used to say, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, add that which is uniquely your own. And that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to go out and be a carbon copy of David. I want you to go out and be a better version of you using the tools that we teach freely in Planet David to make your life better, right? I am a teacher. I will warn you that I am a teacher who thrives on dialogue, interactiveness, and feedback, right? So I'm just putting that up front. I will constantly be checking in with you and making sure that we're on the same page, that we're going the same place. So everything that we're going to talk about tonight is based on this 2 concepts. Well, actually 2 primary concepts, really, but one we're going to talk about a lot is pattern recognition. What you're going to discover, whether you're studying with me for neurolinguistic programming, which we have a seminar coming up in May, or whether you're studying Oriental medicine with me, or face reading, or any derivatives thereof, one of the things you're going to notice is that everything we do, from NLP to acupuncture to face reading and all points in between, is based on pattern recognition. It's based on this concept that everything human beings do, conscious or unconscious, biological, biomechanical, energetic, cognitive, emotional, verbal, lingual, all of these things have a structure. And these structures are patterns that repeat and disseminate over time. And if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, the patterns all around you and in the people that you're interacting with will become progressively more obvious to you. And once you become aware of those patterns, they become increasingly more useful to you. And that's what tonight is about. Everything I'm going to share with you is going to be little nuclear powered tidbits that you can take out into the world and deploy, prove it to yourself, and then when you're ready, level up. Now, some of you are going to want to level up right away, and that's perfectly fine. I'll show you how to do that. But for those of you who are just testing the waters, hey, that's cool. You're going to want to stick to the end of tonight's webinar, though, because we got some amazingly cool stuff. And I have a little bit more. There's always an offer connected to what we do. I'm just going to be very upfront with that. But tonight's offer is going to be super special. And the reason for that, when we get to it, is because, let me jump out of this. Today is our birthday. Na, 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 na. So what I mean is, I'm celebrating 2 birthdays today, right? Today is the 34 years ago today, my first daughter, Tracy Aaron, was born. And so I'm really happy to say Happy birthday, Tracy. You probably won't see this because you don't watch me, but my daughter's out there. And her birthday happens to be 3 days before mine. So we're going to celebrate today 2 birthdays at once. So you're going to want to stay on until the end of tonight to see what we got cooked up, because tonight I'm going to give you a bunch of presents because I'm happy. Is that cool? If you like that idea, type it in the chat. All right. So let's talk about, are you actually in the right place, right? Is this going to be the best use of your next 2.5 to 3 hours? Because we don't do short webinars, right? In fact, shout out to Julie Holmes, who Julie, when I first met her and I was visiting my parents in Pennsylvania, she and 2 or 3 of her fellow students drove 3 hours from New York City to hang out with me in Allentown, Pennsylvania, drinking and dancing, right? So I remember that, Julie. I still have the pictures, right? I'll never post them, but I have them. That being said, how many of you, by show of hands in the chat, would like to be the most fascinating, interesting, charismatic person in the room? If that's something you'd like more of, type that in the chat. How many of you would like to stop being afraid, would love to stop being insecure and feel more comfortable moving through the world, being comfortable in your own skin, radiating more confidence, and seeing and having people look to you as a true leader? Would that be something that might be helpful to you? Would you like to be able to command more money on your job, pass those performance reviews better, book more clients for your business, get that raise or promotion that you know you deserve, right? If you'd like to be able to actually protect yourself from being emotionally manipulated and handle difficult people, if that's something you'd like more of, type that in the chat, right? If you'd like to have people thinking, feeling, and acting the way you want them to so that they naturally follow your lead, you're going to really want to pay attention tonight. And here's why. How many people here, by a show of that's me in the chat, have ever been to like a mentalism show or a psychic? Just type yes in the chat. I'm not going to judge, right? This is about how to be scientifically psychic, right? All right. So you ever notice that when you go to the psychic, or you've watched people at a mentalist show or something like that, that after the person has a few hits, like the person gets a couple of things right, the person they're reading starts to hang on their words more and more and more. Maybe you start to see this look. Anybody ever see that look or something similar? Okay. What you're seeing is a neurological phenomenon. Okay. What happens to us as human beings is anytime we're in the presence of somebody that we feel is an authority figure, who we feel has some kind of extra normal insight into who we are and what we are, we become hyper suggestible and hyper responsive and hyper connected to that person. Okay. Now, I noticed I led with hyper responsive. Why did I do that? Because some people are so terrified of their privacy being violated that the minute somebody demonstrates that kind of a knowledge, they feel that and they bolt. They get super defensive or say, no, that's not me, right? They go into denial. You may have seen that from time to time. I'm telling you what's happening. Normally that the person is not wrong. Normally what's happened is the person was right and that person goes into shock. Okay, so here's a warning to you for those of you who are going to master the art and science of face reading. People will become hyper responsive to you. Any hypnosis skills that you have, any influence skills that you have will be magnified tenfold if you're deploying face reading while they're doing your influence techniques. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there, right? If you are going to be, and again, I use this term with love and kindness, but I'm going to be very straightforward. After this training, you become a very dangerous human being, positive or negative, right? Face reading has that kind of power. It's a force multiplier. It's a social X-ray that gives you instant insight into a person or group of people. and allows you to make long-term predictions that usually wind up being pretty accurate. Let me ask you a question. If you could look at somebody and predict 8 out of 10 times what they were going to do, how they were going to respond, how they're going to answer in a given situation, would that change your life? Yes or yes? Right? What if you knew exactly what to say and do to influence that person 8 out of 10 times? Would that make a difference in how your life works out? Okay. Sorry, I got a little distracted by somebody doing butt jokes in the chat room. He won't be joining us anymore. By the way, I should have warned you. We do have people in the who are on what we call whack-a-troll duty, right? If you're in the chat, please, by all means, behave yourself and don't do things that are distracting to people who are here to actually learn something. Thank you. Okay. That being said, so Seth is saying, oh, wait, what's he talking about? Okay, anyway, moving on. So how many of you would like to nail more job interviews? Anybody? Or inspire your employees? All these things and more are possible when you start to master face reading. So my promise to you today is if you stay until the end of the webinar, I'm going to teach you in a very, very quick way how to understand people's personality and temperament. Remember, we can't determine a person's character, based on face reading. Although a lot of times when you look at somebody's temperament and you look at their environment, a lot of times you'll start to get an idea of what this person is like. Okay. But the idea behind face reading is that regardless of what they're like, you have a better idea of how to handle them, how to manage them, and things of that nature. If you'd like to learn how to track, and for those, how many therapists or coaches or healers, people in the healing arts do we have, and who are change workers, agents of transformation, things of that nature? How many we got in the chat or on the webinar tonight? Okay, so my question to you is if you could look at somebody and know about all the types of trauma, not necessarily what happened, but was it grief or was it sadness? Was it loneliness? Was it overgiving? Was it fear? Was it anger? If you could look at a person's face and see all of their repressed emotion, if you could look at them and know how they would respond to different types of advice or direction that you're giving them, would that make your job as a coach or a healer or a change worker easier? Congratulations, you're on the fast track, right? If you want the fast track to, again, x-rays of people's minds and emotions, the fast track to accelerating the level of suggestibility, compliance, and influence that you get, this is the class that does it. Okay. We're going to go way beyond things like NLP, accessing cues and things of that nature. All right. So I asked this earlier, but I didn't get a lot of answers. So I'm going to ask it again. How many of you, by a show of hands, or that's me in the chat, what do you want to use this for? Right? What did you come here? If there was the one or two things that you came away from tonight, you would have said that was completely worth my time. I can't wait to do more. What would that be for you? Type that in the chat for me. Richard says, continue entertaining people in public. Tracy says, help my clients lose weight. Oh, very good. Okay. Protect myself. Okay, very good. Okay, excellent. So let's talk about this whole face reading stuff, shall we? I'm surprised. Edie says, develop more instincts. Oh, I was wondering, Annette, I was wondering when somebody was going to show up with that question, how to tell if someone is lying. There is a way with classical face reading to tell if somebody's lying, but it's a little bit more wooey than the scientific approach. But if you combine them, you get a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts. So we're going to look at some approaches to lie detection tonight. Okay. So Wise Guy says sales and chicks. I second that emotion. Maddie says learn to talk to people. Michael says instant rapport, increase my empathy. Oh God, you guys are getting the mother load today. Just understand people better. Well, that's on the to-do list, as my Sifu used to say in my kung fu classes and stuff like that. All right, so let's talk about understand. Let's start with one basic idea. Human beings can't resist themselves. Let me say that 2 more times because we're going to keep coming back to it. Human beings can't resist themselves. What their nervous system creates, their nervous system accepts. So as you read people, you need to be able to calibrate what they're saying and how they're saying it, and build that into how you're responding. So we have a process we call the echo technique, which is super simple. You just repeat back the words they use and whatever responses you make, and people will start to automatically fall into deeper rapport. When you start linking things you want them to do to things you see on their face, their brain, I shouldn't be teaching you this. What did I just do? Okay. When you start linking things you see on their face to things you want them to believe or do, their brain will start to process it at the same level of certainty and truthfulness as a belief. It's called a cause and effect statement. And when you come to NLP or you come to Killer Influence or Defense Against the Dark Arts, you'll learn about these super hypnotic language patterns. Well, a lot of the most powerful language patterns that I think are the sexiest are sexy because nobody can detect them, and you can't actually stop them from doing what they do. In other words, when I say, as you listen to what I'm saying, you can realize just how quickly you want to learn how to do this so you can get more of what you want. And that makes sense, right? Type in the chat. That made sense, right? Now here's my question. For those of you holding back from typing, yeah, that's right, in the chat, waiting for the trick. Here's the trick. How does you sitting there listening to me explain anything allow you to do anything? There's no logical connection between that. But because I used a cause and effect structure in my language, and I linked the first part of that cause and effect structure to something your nervous system has to verify. In other words, you're sitting there watching me and listening to me speak. Your system goes, yep, he's doing that. Other part must be true too. Right? Because you were looking at me and I used that first and then led with what I wanted you to believe, your brain just went right into it and said, okay, that's fine. And honestly, if I'd have just kept talking, you'd have just kept believing. Right? Well, Shane, it's not that I'm hypnotizing you, it's that I'm hypnotizing you. Right? Now, what do I mean by that? Here's the thing you need to understand about cause and effect statements. You can't communicate without using them. Let me say that 2 more times. There's 2 core language patterns that are fundamental in any form of verbal or linguistic communication, regardless of what language you speak. Cause and effect, X causes Y, or complex equivalence. Now, complex equivalence is a very complicated way of saying X means Y. Something means Y, right? Anytime you communicate with another human being, there's always going to be something that's doing something, that's causing something, that means something. That's the core, that's the backbone of all human communication. There is no way to communicate without some form of cause and effect or complex equivalence structure in your language. It is so fundamental, it is so hardwired deep into your nervous system, it can't be short-circuited, right? Now, if I understand the dynamics, in which you now have a basic understanding of that, if I understand the dynamics of that, and I intentionally link the first part of that sentence to something your nervous system knows to be true, it will automatically assume whatever follows it is just as true. I'll say it 2 more times. If I link something that your nervous system has accepted and validated as true to the second part of that sentence, your nervous system will give the second part of that sentence the same level of truth and veracity as the first part. One more time. If I take something that your system has validated and verified as true, and I link it to the cause and effect structure to the second part of the sentence, your nervous system will process the second part of that sentence, and it doesn't matter what it is, with the same level of truth and belief as the first part, the part that it knows is true. So when you start reading faces, you have to be careful of the meanings you assign to things and the causes you assign to things. So, for example, how many of you would like to be able to how many of you would like to be able to look at somebody and know very, very quickly how they make decisions? Would that be useful in your line of work? Right. Brighton, I actually did give you an example. It probably went over your head. It probably went past you though, right? All right. So let's look. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen because we're going to talk about decision structures, and then we're going to talk about maybe what we'll do is we'll go through what we'll do for part one of tonight's webinars. We'll go through fundamentals. We'll look at decision strategies. We'll look at emotions. We'll look at public versus private. And then part three of the webinar, we'll go back and we'll go through the 7-second profile, eyebrows, eyes, lips, head shapes, right? So that we have the fundamentals of things we absolutely need to know. And so we know what we're looking at. Part two will be where I'm going to teach you how to get access to the entire training. The pieces I'm sharing with you are pulled from our Defense Against the Dark Arts course. They're pulled from our Face Reading for Fun and Profit series, as well as our classical face reading series. So there's 3 or 4 different ways to get this training. But the pieces I'm sharing with you, like I said, they're little samples, so to speak, of a much bigger system. So let's look at decision making, right? Before we move on, is this useful? Are you guys actually getting something out of this? Okay, so what you're seeing here is a copy of a map from my teacher's book, Face Reading and Chinese Medicine by Lillian Bridges. If you take the head and you divide it, I don't know if I can, I want to see if I can, I feel like a weatherman. Right, so I feel, let me see if I can do this here. All right, so if you look at the top zone here, right? That's what we call the heaven zone. You want to take the head and you want to divide it into 3 zones. So the first thing we're going to look at is the heaven zone. Now, anybody here study any form of... So the top zone is what we call the heaven zone. People with a much larger upper zone are people who are very data driven. They're like my good friend and partner in Jet Webinar, Brandon Burr, who's actually on the webinar tonight. He has a very, very dominant high forehead and high crown. So his upper zone is very, very large. Mine is very, very large. And so anytime he's very, very data driven. So anytime that I ask Brandon for an update on how the business is doing, he answers me with a spreadsheet, right? But he's also, data-driven people are also very big on abstraction. So one of the things that you're going to see with people who are predominantly with this upper middle zone, they'll have a little bit more dissociation to them. They'll be more what we call in NLP terms digital, right? They will tend to be not quite as emotional unless the other zones are just as big. So these people are going to be very data-driven. If you work with somebody who's got a very high forehead, a very large head in this area, you're looking at somebody who wants to see the numbers before they make a decision. That's what they want to see first. Show me your data, right? My wife has a very interesting forehead because she worked in biotech for a long time. And so a lot of times people would come to her and they would start telling her the conclusions of the research. Or her mother was also a scientist. They would start giving her the conclusions of the research. And the first thing she would say is, don't tell me what you conclude. Give me the data. I'll make my own conclusion, right? Super big forehead. Okay. Good way to test this for yourself. If there's any tech campuses or where you live, like down here in San Diego, we have Qualcomm and we have a bunch of other Defense Department places and things of that nature, right? Go hang out around those places during lunchtime and count and look at the eggheads. And I don't mean eggheads in a bad way. You'll see that the vast majority of people who are very, very technologically oriented, very data oriented, this could be an auditor, this could be a programmer, this could be any kind of analyst, right? You're going to see this super high forehead, right? Now, same idea. Let's jump down to the bottom of the face. We jump down to the bottom of the face and you see somebody who has a much larger lower zone, right? This is somebody who is very, very physical or emotionally driven. This is somebody who goes off their gut, off their instinct, off their intuition, right? You can give them the data all day long. You can tell them all, show them all the amazing things it's going to do for them. At the end of the day, they're either going to love it or they're not, right? They're going to love it or they're not. So good way to see a lot of this kind of energy is if you go to an MMA gym or like a 24-hour fitness, but go to a place where like a CrossFit gym. CrossFits are probably better. CrossFits, extreme martial arts, things of that nature. Walk in and look at the jaws versus the ratios of the jaw size to the forehead size. Not that people who do those kinds of things are stupid or not intelligent or don't think of data or anything like that. But what you're going to see is because of the preponderance of testosterone, usually in the system, you're going to see a much fuller, bigger jaw that lends itself to athletic activities. It lends itself to much more emotional, visceral decision-making. Okay. Now, if you want to see how some of the neurotransmitter pathways relate to face work, I recommend you pick up a copy of Why Him, Why Her by Dr. Helen Fisher. She actually has a very small section in that book that talks about how different dominances of neurotransmitters create certain facial characteristics. And that's one of the things that goes into the modern aspect of face reading, is that it's about neurotransmitter pathway, hormonal dominances, and then lifestyle. Lifestyle is one of the biggest factors in how a person's face will change and morph over time. Okay. If for those of you who like to do research, if you go and you get my teacher's book, Face Reading in Chinese Medicine by Lillian Bridges, at the very beginning of that book, you're going to see pictures of couples who 20, 30, 40 years ago were just getting married. They were just dating. And then the same couples 40, 50 years later, and they go from being very, very distinct looking individuals to people who look very, very similar, almost like brother and sister. Why is that? It's because of the proximity, the mirror neuron effect, the vibration and the rapport that's built between those couples. As their thinking patterns start to align more and more, their behaviors start to align more and more, they start moving towards synergy. They start moving towards entrainment. And it's very, very powerful to see this. Your face is constantly changing. And this is why in our systems, we have what we call passive profiling and active profiling. Passive profiling is what we're doing right now. This is the core banks and rivers of your face, the mountains, the banks, the rivers, the geography of it. Active profiling are changes to that geography in the moment. So if I'm talking to you and you lie to me and all of a sudden, and you thought you got away with it, and you have a little tiny microsecond of a smile, it's called duping delight, right? That's a momentary change in a person's facial architecture that lets them know there's emotions below the surface that are trying to be masked or held back, right? So they're very complementary, but they're very different studies. The face reading that we're doing here is the consequence of a lifetime of these micro expressions building up over time. So hopefully that's useful for you guys. Okay. Rhinum Stonehenge is saying, we are understanding the structure of your processes more and more. Well, I hope so. Brighton says, I think you gave the example before the explanation, so I missed how it works. All right, I'll give you Brighton. For those of you who missed it the first time, I'm going to give it to you again, but I have to warn you about something. One of the side effects, which is why it's so hard to get caught using this language, one of the side effects of using hypnotic language well is spontaneous amnesia. So unless I give it to you in a very discreet, very micro scaled down way, if you weren't writing it down or really paying attention for it, it would just go in and you would just have amnesia that it ever happened. Paxing, what are some good books for face reading? Start with Face Reading in Chinese Medicine by my teacher, Lillian Bridges. I'm actually working on a couple of books that combine the old school approach to face reading with modern face reading. So there's always that. But I'll show you how to get access to a lot of powerful information. So has what I shared with you useful so far? Is this helping you? Just type in the chat so I know. Okay. So that leaves us one final zone. Excellent. Thank you. That leaves us one final zone to talk about, and that is the middle zone. Right? So just to be very clear, the upper zone of the body can be seen from the top of the head to the eyebrow line. The middle zone is seen from the eyebrow line to the base of the nose. And then the lower zone is done from the base of the philtrum to the tip of the chin. Okay? So when we look at somebody, and I'm gonna jump out of my screen share here just for you guys. So I'm gonna get a little bit closer to the camera. As you look at my face, okay, which zone is bigger? Do I have a bigger upper zone, a bigger middle zone, or a bigger lower zone? So Richard says forehead, upper zone. So it's pretty obvious, right? I'm pretty heady. What would you say is my secondary zone? In other words, if this is my biggest one, right? And sometimes in the class, I'll teach you to do it from here to here. Sometimes I'll teach you to do it from here to here, right? I've found use in both, but I was traditionally taught here to here is our upper zone. What's my secondary? Is it here, right? Or is it here? Middle, but it's close to. So you could say, very good, Richard. And Donna says middle. Michael says middle. Kenny says middle. Okay, so if we were to be doing a reading of the three zones of my face and creating a profile of me, we would say, show me the data. I got some interesting information, David. I think you're going to find it really useful. Why would I say really useful? Because my middle zone is my pragmatic zone. People who have a zone, the middle zone, that is much bigger than the other zones are people who are very, show me what I can do with it. Don't tell me the data. Show me what how's that data going to help me? How's it going to make my life easier? What's it going to do for me? Right? When you see someone with these big middle zones, they're all about application. They want to know how what you're presenting to them is going to make their life better. Or in some cases, how what you're presenting to them, if they don't act on it the way you want to, their life is going to get worse and harder. Right? People with this, they love it or they don't. It's an emotional thing. People with this, they want to know how it's going to make their life better or harder if they don't do it. They want the data that supports it. Now, it's easy to think that if you look at me and say, hey, David's a data guy, right? He wants information. And it's true, I do. And you stop there, you're going to get my attention for a minute. But the next question what will be, if you give me this data, right? What's the next question I'm most likely to ask based on my facial architecture? Again, this is the interactive portion of tonight. Richard says, how's it going to help? Anything else? How else would you word it? What can it do for me? Excellent, Donna. Right? Because that's exactly, anybody who knows me, who's presented me with data, what's the first, for those you veterans in Planet David who've come up to me with really interesting information or something that they've discovered, what do I usually say after you present it? Usually something along the lines of what can you do with it? Right? Why? Because I have this massive middle zone. And depending on how I'm gonna on what you can do with it, I'm gonna love it. Right? So you have a sequence of information that you present to the person. Exactly, Julie. Is it useful? Right? I spent a lot of time sorting through data to find what's useful. And when it's really useful, I really love it. And that's how you present to me. Right? That's how you present. Now, let's invert that for a moment. Let's say you look at me and my jaw is like down to my knees. Right? And my middle zone's the same, and my upper zone is small. Like maybe my hairline is really close to my eyebrow line, which means something very significant, which we'll talk about later. But how would you present to me now? What is that? What do you know now about my process for making a decision? What do you know? I'm emotional. Michael's asking, what if all parts have the same size? Great question. This person's usually indecisive. Right? Very rare to find someone who has exactly the same proportions, but sometimes the proportions are so small it's hard to tell. So Richard says, start with facts, go to usefulness. If I have a large lower zone, no, I probably wouldn't start with facts, Richard. I would start with dudette. You're going to love this. This is what it's going to do for you. And here's all the data that proves what I'm saying. Right? I'm going to start with why I'm going to love it. Now, you have to be careful. And we'll talk about this when we get to eyebrows. There's a common phenomenon in human nervous systems called reactance. Right? If I come up to somebody and I say, you're going to love, hey, you should hear about this, you're going to love it. There's a part of me that says, oh, yeah. So you have to be careful to neutralize reactance when you're presenting something. Right? Because a lot of times that blanket statement like that will trigger filters. Right? So what we've learned now is that when I look at somebody, and can I do that? Can I make an extract? How fast did it take you to figure out how big my forehead was and my top of my head was versus the rest of my face? How long did that take you once I asked you the question? A second, maybe? 2 seconds? What do you think? Not long, right? That's what I mean. And here's the best part. You can do that from across the room, right? Before you've even engaged with that person, before they're even aware of you, you can start to begin this profile. Like Nathan says, less than 20 seconds. Great. It's a great place to start, right? So the idea here is how quickly, once we know what to look at and what to look for and what it means, how quickly can we zero in visually on those attributes, right? So remember that when we look at the three decision zones of the face, and by the way, there is some direct correlation between these three zones here and the three zones in graphical analysis and handwriting analysis, which is a neurologically based system. All right, so again, we can back this up. So the idea here is there's a sequence, right? If I see someone who's got a really big middle zone, really big upper zone, and then a smaller lower zone, what do I know? What do I know? What should I lead with? Assuming, let's say that the middle zone is a little bit bigger than the upper zone, just to keep it simple. What should I lead with? What's it going to do for them? Right? Here? Think at marketing. What's the problem what you're presenting is going to solve for them? Right? Well, Philip, that's a great question. If their upper zone and their middle zone are basically the same size, you're safe going either way as long as you hit both of them. But if we assume that their middle zone is a little bit bigger, it's going to be safer leading with the problem that you're going to solve for them and then supporting it with the data. Okay? So your first home play, right, is to go out into the world or look at celebrities and look at their three zones and then do a behavioral analysis of the decisions they've made, and the actions they've taken. And when they talk, notice what they lead with. Do they lead with data? Do they lead with the problem that needed to be solved? Do they lead with how they found this thing that they absolutely fell in love with? A lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, those will come out in the language. They'll come out in the language, right? In how they begin to. So I was doing this research on the internet the other day, and I came across this thing, boom, and I just fell in love with it because I realized how I could use it to do X, Y, and Z. Now, based on that languaging, what kind of facial architecture do you think that person would have? So Philip is asking, well, guys, type your answer to the question in the chat while I answer Philip's question. Can the zones be correlated to particular speaking habits that you can pick out early in a conversation? I believe yes. Do I have data to support that? No. I've never thought to actually collate or collect data on that, but I would encourage you guys to go out and do that, right? That would be a great study, right? But I think also we'd have to actually look at context too, right? Neurolinguistically speaking, there should be a correlation a lot of times, right? If the theory holds, right? But you guys are the first ones that I've ever talked to this about. So, so can we use this? Is this something we can go out in the world and use? Yes or no? Yes or yes, as T. Harv Eker would say. Okay. All right. Let me get out of draw mode so my thing doesn't lock up. All right, let's talk about social masks. Now, I've studied with a lot of amazing people in a lot of different ways. And regardless of where they're pulling their information from. So for example, in NLP and in body language training that I learned when I was in undergrad. For those of you who don't know, I was actually a dual major for a little while. I was a dual major in pre-med and as well as criminal justice. And that's where I actually learned my kinesic interview and interrogation. I was actually trained in interview and interrogation in college. I actually took that training. And it was one of the most fascinating courses. I'd already had a background in NLP when I got there, so I just nailed it hands down. I absolutely loved it. But one of the things that was consistent from when I trained with Dr. Janie Johnson, when I trained through the Tad James systems, up through Richard Bandler, when I worked with Chase Hughes, when I worked with Sifu Jerry Allen Johnson, regardless of whether you're coming from the deeply spiritual side of things or you're coming from the purely mind control military brainwashing application stuff, espionage, tradecraft, you name it. The one thing that everybody agrees on is that every human out there, including you, is wearing a mask, usually more than one. We call them social masks, right? Now, the ancient Taoists, in their study of human psychology, the Buddhists in their study of human psychology, and as it applies to face reading, discovered, you know what? Human beings are wearing masks. And two of the masks that they wear can be seen very, very clearly on the face if you know what to look for and how to look at it. Okay. So most people, because we live in a right-handed world, which tends to be rational, linear, logical, we tend to be right-eye dominant. Because we're right-eye dominant, we tend to look at people primarily through our right eye, which means we see them from the rational, logical, linear thinking mind. Our left eye, our left brain, controls the emotional, holistic, subconscious side of us. But because most of us are not operating intentionally from that place most of the time, we don't see the world as much through that left eye hemisphere. So one of the things my teacher taught me is that if you want to start to really see people holistically, If you want to see people through the lens of the unconscious mind, learn to look at them through the left eye. Like you look at the left side of their face through the left eye, and you'll see the face differently than when you see it through the right eye. Okay. Now, if you're a lefty, it means you're always in your right mind. I'm teasing. No, it's not. I'm not teasing actually, but the truth is you might want to play with switching it up and seeing, get yourself, just look at how a person's face changes when you look at it through the left eye versus the right eye. Now, that being said, when we look at the face, I'm going to go back to my images here. By the way, just for my edification, do you guys like me having the image in the background? Is that helpful for you guys? Nice, but not necessary. Does this get posted as a video after the love session? Well, the love session's a different class, Aries, but the short answer is yes, there will be a replay for this. Okay. Let me see if I can get it back. Hold on a second. Okay. I kind of like it, but every now and then I don't want you to see what I'm looking at. So, right, I'm trying to make this very organic for you guys. So we're going to talk about social masks. And then if it's okay with you, I'd like to show you how to take this training, how to get access to the whole enchilada, the whole training. Would that be fair? Would that be okay? I promised I'd take you as far as I could. It's okay to show you what I've got planned for you because it's our birthday, right? Excellent. All right. So what you're seeing here, once again, is this was adapted from my teacher's book, Face Reading in Chinese Medicine. The person's right side, the right side of their face, is their public face. A person's left side of their face is their private face. So how do we use this? Well, the first thing that has to happen is when we start trying to perceive the public and the private face of a human being, there's certain contexts in which one is more useful than the other. The first thing we want to look for is symmetry. How symmetrical are the features themselves? The eyes, the eyebrows, the nose, the lips. A lot of times you'll look at people's lips and you'll notice that they're actually quite asymmetrical in terms of thickness, in terms of weightedness. What you'll see a lot of times in people with these really asymmetrical features, and I mean an exaggerated asymmetry. Everybody has some degree of asymmetry. What you're seeing a lot of times is a lot of fluidity in their emotional states. I've seen a lot of people that have certain, especially around the lips, have all kinds of boundary issues, emotional sensitivities, easily triggered in certain situations. Same thing with the eyes. A lot of times when you see an asymmetry in the eyes, there's usually some kind of, I don't want to go so far as to say split personality, but they're very mercurial. They can be very different people and have very different responses from moment to moment to moment, right? So if we're looking at somebody's left face and their right face, remember that the right face is always the face they want you to see, the face they show the public. When a person goes to the office, this is the face, this is the identity they want you to perceive them as, this is the identity they're operating from. When you look at their left face, now you're seeing who they are in the dark. You're seeing who they are when they're home, the blinds are closed, the curtains are drawn, right? They're with their most intimate friends or they're completely by themselves. Nobody's looking. This is who they truly are. These are the feelings that they're dealing with, or as is often the case when you look at their face, not dealing with. Okay. And if you ever take a picture of somebody and you cut it in half and you superimpose two right sides together and you superimpose two left sides together, they'll look like very completely different faces. Okay. Don't believe me, grab Photoshop and do it. You'll be amazed, right? You can learn to see these things very, very quickly, right? Now, what else are we looking at? Well, we're looking at asymmetry, the symmetry of the features for sure. The next thing we want to look at is lines and wrinkles. Are the wrinkles on their face symmetrical? How long are they? How deep do they go? The length and depth of the wrinkle lines determine how long that stuff's been there and how much of it there is. Okay, so if you're a therapist, a change worker, a coach, a manager, and you've got somebody with these super long lines and very deep lines, if they're symmetrical, they're that way characterologically. They're that way no matter if they're at the office or whether they're at home. If they're deeper on one side, they're deeper on the public face, when they go to work, that shit's happening. That's what they're dealing with. That's what they're processing or suppressing. Usually when you see these wrinkles, it's overuse. So it's suppression. It's overuse of micro expressions or emotional areas. And so they'll be longer and deeper. The more repressed it is, the longer it'll be there, or the longer the marking will be. The more superficial, there'll be no marking at all, or very short, very shallow. Conversely, if we look at somebody and the private side has all these markings and these deep lines, and over here there's almost nothing. Well, now we know what's going on when they go out the door to go to work. They're a different human being, right? They don't take things as personally. They don't repress things. They don't hold on to things. But when they get home, all that shit comes out, right? Useful, not useful? Type it in the chat. Okay, cool. All right. So here's what I'd like to do, if it's okay. I'd like to take some time and show you how to get access to the entire training system, plus a whole bunch of cool bonuses that we put together. And because it's my birthday, I threw in a couple of extra goodies just for you. And then when we're done with that, I want to circle back. I want to pick up with emotions, and I want to look at, again, we'll customize the content for the exact applications that you want. I know a lot of you are asking about dating and attraction. Some of you are looking about lie detection. We'll start customizing some of that, because some of the traits were for the 7-second profile that we're going to talk about are similar things that we would look for that could indicate more of a preponderance to deception than others, right? It's actually really useful, okay? And we'll go, and from that point, we'll go on as long as you want, and we'll just keep teaching until you can't stand me anymore, right? Let me find my PowerPoint, which seems to have disappeared. Oh, there it is. Okay. So with your permission, hold on a second. With your permission, I'd like to teach you about our Face Reading for Fun and Profit, How to Read Anyone home study course. This is a program that I designed. It's a basic reworking and a reorganization of all the amazing skills that I learned from my teacher, Lillian Bridges, combined into a much more linear, non-oriental medicine format. In other words, you don't have to have a background in Chinese energetics. You don't have to have a background in Kung Fu, Tai Chi, martial arts, acupuncture. You don't need any of that to be amazing at reading people in as little as 90 seconds. In fact, the very first goal is to be able to read anyone anytime from the top of the head to the mask line in 90 seconds. And then we go even deeper and teach you how to do the whole face, right? It's one of the most powerfully useful skills I've ever come across. And I really believe that it can dramatically shorten the curve and move the needle in your life as well. So without any further ado, here's what we're going to be doing with you, right? Face reading is all about helping you take your life to the next level. It's about learning to understand yourself and others, probably better than you ever thought possible. What you'll notice from day to day to day is every time you get up in the morning, your face will be different. When you meet people and you go through change work, the face that comes out of your chair will be different than the one that got in it. Don't believe me? How many face readers we got in the chat? Type your experiences watching faces change right in front of you when that shit's cleared up, right? You're going to have the ability to decode behavior and research and understand people instantly. You'll be able to make predictions that will be more true more often than not based on what you read from the face. You'll be able to help more people and feel more confident and more powerful in your life. And I'm not just talking about physical power. I'm talking about economic power. I'm talking about relationship and social power, professional power. Power is the ability to make something happen, the ability to move the needle of your life forward. And that's what face reading allows you to do faster and better than just about anything. It presupposes, I'll be upfront with you, it presupposes that you have the skills of influence necessary to deliver your messages, right? That there is a presupposition there. But whatever communication skills you have are going to be dramatically enhanced just by having the ability to look at a face and know things about that person that even their best friends don't know. Okay. You're going to find yourself winning more and more and more. And as a byproduct of this, you're going to discover that people just hang on your every word. You'll become instantly more charming, charismatic. I'll dare say irresistible, not because, remember what I talked about earlier about the whole mentalism effect? When somebody demonstrates knowledge of you that, or of a person that they couldn't possibly know unless they were psychic or downloaded by God himself or whatever, we become very, very hyper responsive to people. We want them to tell us more about ourselves. Remember at the beginning of the webinar, I said human beings can't resist themselves. Did you remember? You guys remember me saying that? Yes or yes? This is an aspect of that. The most powerful, the most favorite topic of every human being on the planet is them. And the moment you get them focused on themselves, they'll go into a massive pleasure state and they'll link that pleasure to you. That suggestibility, that connection, that trust will be linked to you. So when I say charming, charismatic, irresistible, I am not kidding. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. I'll repeat that 2 more times. With great power comes great responsibility. Last time, then I'm not going to quote Spider-Man anymore. With great power comes great responsibility. Why? Because you're going to have the ability to open up somebody like a can opener and find every secret and every hot button that they have, positive or negative, and use it. It's not uncommon for people who especially therapists. We have therapists in the chat who can verify this. It's not uncommon when you use face reading in a coaching session or a therapeutic session for people to become hyper reactive to what you say, right? And this can be weaponized. So again, I want you to use it with respect, with love and kindness, but don't be afraid to use it to protect yourself if the need arises, right? And there's many different ways that you can use this to protect yourself, right? But we train the good Jedi, not the bad Jedi. Any karma you reap from the misuse of these skills, God's watching. All right. That's all I'm going to say. Right. Let's move on. So everything I'm going to share with you in the next 20, 30 minutes or so is good until April 17th. That's my daughter's birthday. Right. She's 34 today. I know. 34. Yes. I won't tell you how old I am. Right. Expires at 11:59 p.m. tonight. So let's talk about the secrets of face reading home study course. This is a course that I first launched many years ago. Right before COVID, as a matter of fact. And it's a course that really does, in a lot of ways, change the game. It will give you instant access to how to assess personality and temperament. Like I said, character is something you can extrapolate, but it's not something that's going to be shown in any specific feature or group of features on the face, right? It's going to teach you how people make thinking and decision-making styles so that you can tailor how you present yourself and how you talk to them to that person's own unique formula. Think of it like a little code that you punch in that automatically gets people to process things the way you want them to do, right? These skills will allow you to read personality, temperament, trauma history, and so much more. You'll be able to unlock people's emotional trauma, stuff they didn't even know they were holding on to. You'll be able to zero in on the markings that allow you to follow those trails of breadcrumbs and help them release those things. You'll learn people's management styles, how they respond to authority, how they exert authority, right? For example, when you look at somebody's chin, if you have someone with a big chin, you have someone who's very, very willful, they tend to be good leaders. But people who have a more pointed chin tend to be more of, I am the king, you will obey me type of a leader, as opposed to people who have the broader, squarer chin who are, I am the servant, I'm the leader, how can I help you? Right? They're both very powerful, very strong, very charismatic, willful people, but the management style, the way that that energy expresses itself, is different. Liam says, Planet David Vet here. I can 100% confirm the power of face reading. I'm now studying face reading too. And oh my God, you guys, I'm using that testimonial, Liam. Thank you. Right. If you want to look at somebody and find out if they're sexually romantically compatible to you, this was actually one of the major things that Lillian's family and her system that I learned from is the Chen lineage. It's a family lineage. A lot of what they were doing, where they were working in the business world, and they were working primarily in the matchmaking world. So a lot of sexual and romantic compatibility is what we were taught. In fact, I'll be doing a course based on one of Lillian's programs called sexuality and face reading and sexuality, or love face. I'm going to call it face your love, face your heart, face to face. It's going to be all about how to use these things for romance and dating, and if you're in a relationship, how to work with your partner better and understand each other better. It's an application of the core skills that we're learning here. You'll find that as you go through Planet David that a lot of the skills that we teach, there are what we call core competencies. And then there are application-specific trainings where we take those core competencies and we apply it towards face reading. We apply it towards healing and therapy. We apply it towards coaching. We apply it towards energetics. But there's core systems in play that are supporting all of these different applications. Right? That's pretty much how we've designed what we do. Face reading has a set of core applications, but it's also of core competencies, which is what this course is about. And then, of course, you have all the different applications. Right? We also have a course on just for business. Right? The ability to manage money and resources. How do people handle money? It's on your face, believe it or not, right? How do you connect with people? Are you somebody who has more of an avoidant personality? Are you somebody who's more outgoing and embracing or enfolding? Are you more standoffish, right? Those things can be seen very, very clearly on the face. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about that in part 3 of the webinar. Obviously, to understand yourself better, one of the things, I will warn you guys, and face readers out there, how many face readers do we have out in La La Land? Just type me in the chat. So we got Richard, we got Seth. Anybody else? Only 2? I've taught hundreds of people face reading. Only 2 showed up. They're out reading faces. That's why. All right. Well, anyway, Shane. Oh, Shane. Hey, buddy. Shane's my brother from face reading. He's out. He actually trained alongside me and Lillian. Right. So yeah, I miss you, brother. You need to come out more. Nathan says, I like learning. So the idea is one of the things you have to be warned about is that once you learn this, you can't turn it off. Every morning I get up and I stare at my face in the mirror for like 10 minutes, studying the lines and wondering how they've changed and what I need to do to get more transformation lines and all kinds of crazy stuff. Seth says it gets very annoying when watching movies, right? Right. So again, this is a very, very like the FedEx sign. And it says, I really want to. Well, just stay tuned. I'll show you a fast and easy way to do that, right? So this is where we're going with face reading. I've taken a lot of the materials that I've learned from my teacher, and I've scoured the internet. I've looked for every single course she ever taught, to the Oriental medical community, to other people, and I've collated that information. I'm distilling it, I'm organizing it, I'm cross-referencing it with the most up-to-date scientific studies, and we're coming out with different face reading systems based on specific applications, but there are core competencies that you need to learn about. We also teach the full classical 5-element system that I learned from my teacher, because we believe that lineage needs to go on in its original form. So there's many different ways that you can study face reading, but this is probably, for most of you, this is the best place to start, because you don't need to know anything about chi or water, earth, wind, fire. You don't need to know any of that to put this to work right away. Okay, it's the most. One of the things, and when you start applying it, you'll automatically become the most fascinating person in the room. You'll have to run. Like, you ever see those people running away from crowds, chasing them? That was me a couple of times at some of the conventions when I was teaching face reading. They would not leave me alone. So you have to be very careful who you show this to and who you share it with. right? And if you one of those people who doesn't like to be fooled, right? If you've dated the same guy with a different face, the same girl with a different face over and over and over again, this will help you look below the mask so you can start avoiding those things. So the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course is a $1,997 value, and it by itself will change your life. But because most of you are going to be doing this from home, you're going to need support. You're going to need other types of information. And so I wanted to make this package the most comprehensive and supportive and well-rounded program that I could. So for those of you who click the link when we show it, or if you want the link, scream it out now and I'll have Mia post it for you guys. I put in some other courses that will help support you and round out your ability to use these skills in every aspect of your life. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Defense Against the Dark Arts. Now, you've heard me mention this a few times. One of the things I loved about my face reading training with Lillian was when we talked about something called Shen. Shen is literally the heart and mind. It's the psycho-emotional, spiritual aspect of face reading. Now, Lillian herself was very, very much a student of psychology. There were 2 intelligence organizations that were actively courting her to get her to teach her face reading system to the CIA. And there was one other agency, which I won't mention because I don't want to mention it. And I don't actually want to be, I'm not 100% sure which agency that was. I think it was an agency north of us. Lillian did not actually want to share this information with those people, primarily because she was afraid it would be misused. And understanding the power of face reading and understanding her father himself was a CIA spy. He was actually an operative for the Central Intelligence Agency. Okay. I can see why she felt that way. I, however, encouraged her, and this is probably not going to be very popular. I encouraged her to actually do that. I encouraged her to actually work with those people. She didn't, but I encouraged her. And here's why. You see, if the CIA wants something, they're going to get it, period. The difference is if you work with them or alongside of them, you at least have some level of influence over how that information is used, right? So it's like, you fight the battles you can win, you manage the ones you can't, right? And so my belief was that if you're going to get it no matter what, it's better to be able to have some influence over how it's used and some level of direction over that information than to not have any. So that was my approach. She didn't like it, but I put that out there. Defense Against the Dark Arts, I'm very, very proud of. As you saw from our earlier introduction, Defense Against the Dark Arts was ranked the #1 NLP training program in the world by globalgurus.org. And I believe it was done through 22 and 23. 2024, we dropped to #2. So we're still the second best NLP training course in the world, I think. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm teaching more NLP classes this year, because I think we're not certifying enough people in NLP. So my rank's dropping. Anyway, Defense Against the Dark Arts is a combination of our Killer Influence Covert Hypnosis Training Program, which was ranked the #1 NLP program in the world before Defense Against the Dark Arts. But it also has about 40 to 60% profiling. There's going to be face reading. There's going to be micro expressions. There's going to be the 21 distinct tells that social predators use when they try to manipulate you or gaslight you or future promise you or hoover you. Do you guys know what I mean when I say future promise or hoovering? Do you guys know what that? I know you guys probably know what gaslighting means. Yes, you guys know what gaslighting means? Okay. Do you know what hoovering means? Okay. For those of you who don't know what hoovering is, when you're in a relationship with a predator, with someone who's a psychological or predator, a wife abuser, child abuser, con man, things of that nature, any kind of person high on the sociopathic narcissistic spectrum, there's a lot of tactics that these people use to pull you into the relationship, make you psychologically and emotionally dependent on them, and then to keep you there. But if you happen to get away, in other words, somehow, some way, you manage to pull yourself out of that relationship, you manage to escape it, these predators will often engage in something called hoovering. Hoovering is like 6 or 7 specific behavioral tactics that narcissistic, Machiavellian, dark triad type people use to pull you back, to trick you back into that relationship. We're going to cover that kind of stuff in depth in Defense Against the Dark Arts. So yes, there's going to be a face reading component. There's also going to be a micro expression component. I'm going to give you the whole, a very quick list of everything that's offered in this program. But as an adjunct to the face reading training, I think you can see how it takes this core competency of face reading and moves it into this whole area of social management, social dynamic management, and social engineering, right? This is a way that you can begin to arm yourself and equip yourself with the ability to perceive malevolent activities or character disturbed individuals, how to perceive them, profile them, and then implement specific strategies to protect yourself from them. That's the long and short of Defense Against the Dark Arts. So in this course, you're going to receive, you're going to learn how to think like a master of influence, and you're going to learn how psychological and psycho-emotional predators, social predators, think and behave so that you can inoculate yourself against those types of influences. How to control your own psycho-emotional state so no one else can. Power rapport skills for connecting with anyone, anytime, anywhere. And there's a reason we call a lot of our techniques real world hypnosis, real world NLP, real world yada, yada, yada. Because our motto is, it's nothing we do here is theoretical, guys. Everything we do is about being able to do this stuff anytime, anywhere, under any situation, in any circumstance, with anyone. And so we train you that way. So the power rapport skills will teach you and expand your understanding of this basic phenomena of rapport from one area to 3. And each of those areas has its own unique superpowers. We're going to teach you how to become a master of that in just a couple of days, right? We're going to teach you about the most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist. Remember, I gave you one at the beginning of today's class where we take a cause and effect statement, we link something that's indisputable from that person's perspective, link it to something we want them to do or believe, and they'll just go ahead and do it. Because the filters of the brain just link those things together with the same intensity and certainty as a belief, right? You don't have to believe what I'm saying. You can test it out, all right? We're going to teach you how to manage the emotional states of others. And this is where face reading can truly, powerfully change the game for you. The system we teach for emotional management in Killer Influence is second to none. When you start layering in your ability to look at people's facial traits, create a profile, and fine-tune that ability to influence to what you see and be able to monitor the changes in their face, it's almost not fair, but it's the most ethical, fair way to do these things, okay? Admit Audacity says, hopefully narcissists won't be learning this. Here's the thing you need to understand about narcissists. A lot of them have certain filters in place that let them do exactly what we're teaching you to do. They actually do this stuff automatically. That's what makes them so charming and irresistible. What I'm doing for you guys is I'm leveling the playing field, okay? I'm leveling the playing field and I'm giving you contingencies. I'm giving you tactics and strategies that you can use to neutralize what these natural predators automatically do, right? It was a great statement, and this is our answer to that. This whole program is our answer to social predation, but it's also your answer, your key to social empowerment. It's about helping you become the best version of yourself, living your best life, helping as many people as humanly possible, and never being taken advantage of again. That's the core of everything we're doing, okay? I'm going to teach you how to hijack a person's own internal behavior codes. We've talked a little bit about that. We'll teach you how other social predators try to do it so you can avoid it and become aware of it. Remember something, and this is important. I tell this to all my students. They can verify what I'm about to tell you. My first job as your teacher, your guide, your mentor, is to help you to become progressively more aware. Because without awareness, there is no choice. Anything outside of your awareness is outside of your control. And just because it's outside of your awareness doesn't mean it's not influencing and controlling you. Okay? That's job one as your teacher, right? Then we're going to teach you how to use it. Okay? What else is going to be in this course? We'll teach you the fundamentals of lie detection on demand, how to spot sociopath, narcissists, and other evil a-holes, right? We're going to teach you speed profiling secrets for preventing predators from getting their hooks into you in the first place, and what to do to get out if they manage to get inside. We're going to teach you the predatory secrets of predatory psychology. In other words, how do these motherfuckers think, right? What is the specific formula that they're going to apply? How do we recognize that? And finally, how do we turn the tables on these narcissistic, sociopathic, Machiavellian predators and other types of social predators or persuasion transgressors? And I'm not just talking about the average wife beater or even the child abuser, right? I'm talking about human traffickers. I'm talking about drug dealers. I'm talking about pimps. I'm talking about anybody who's going to use social con artists, grifters. I'm talking about anybody who has a vested interest in preying on the socially weak, disempowered, or struggling, right? I want to teach you how they think, what they look for, the victimology patterns that they follow, and most importantly, how to take yourself off that list. Okay? That's what Defense Against the Dark Arts is all about. It's a little bit on, no pun intended, it's a little bit on the dark side. It's a little bit of a heavy topic. Right? We try to make it as fun and playful as we can because it's such a dark topic, but it's a topic that needs to be taught. It's something we all need. And if you're a coach or a therapist, if you've ever had somebody dealt with transference that turned into a stalker, we'll teach you how to flag that stuff right off the bat. Okay? For those of you who are change workers out there, you know what I'm talking about. We're going to teach you hypnotic reframe techniques for winning arguments and keeping yourself from getting effectively gaslighted, how to change your own limiting beliefs in seconds and overcome any a psychological linguistic attack that you're faced with. This is from our Renegade Reframing program, and it's super, super powerful. We're going to teach you the 21 conversational red flags that narcissists, sociopaths, and other forms of persuasion predators use to avoid taking responsibility, shift the blame, or gaslight you into believing what they say and doing what they want. There's 21 different flags that come up in normal conversations. Once you understand the patterns and how to reframe them, you can neutralize them and break them apart. It won't be pleasant, but at least you'll know what to do. And then finally, we're going to take some time to teach you how to spot micro expressions, changes, and subtle facial cues so that you can profile people in real time, towards and away from them. Total value on this is $1,997. Combined with Secrets of Face Reading, you're looking at a total value now of $3,994. But we're not done yet. We got more stuff for you. So for those of you who are change workers, for those of you who are coaches, who help people become the best version of self, overcoming traumas, overcoming addictions, overcoming phobias, fears, limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, we're going to include this program for you. This is my Identity by Design hypnotherapy home study program. This is our flagship hypnosis and hypnotherapy training program. It will literally take you from zero to hero in terms of your ability to create very, very powerful, very, very direct, visceral change in people in the shortest amount of time possible. It will automatically give you the ability to unlock the power of the subconscious mind. You'll be able to hypnotize anyone, anytime, anywhere, for any reason. You'll be able to remove blocks to their success, limiting beliefs, sometimes the limiting beliefs they didn't even know they had. You'll be able to find and remove hidden negativity that goes away and comes back, right? If you ever had something that you've gone to get treated, got home, next day, shit's back, you don't know why, there's nothing wrong with you. There's little addendums and programs that your nervous system assigns to certain types of experiences that generate, or in some cases, regenerate pain, physical or emotional, that go away and come back. We're going to show you how to systematically find those and remove them from the person, including yourself, right? For issues that clear up and just don't, or and always come back, we'll show you how to diagnose that in the non-clinical version, right? And how to apply the fix to that, how to resolve negativity from your past, how to change, install the traits, qualities, and characteristics of people you really want to be more like, right? How to remove that crappy voice from your head, the voice in your head that just said, what voice, right? All you got to do is follow the process. It's called Voice of Authority, and it's one of the most powerful experiences you can go through. We're going to teach you how to do a special intake process, an evaluation process that will have 9 out of 10 people signing up for your product or service within 30 minutes, and a whole lot more. Instant and rapid inductions, you name it. For those of you who are already coaches, change workers, healers of any kind, if you're doing face reading, this is the perfect, and when I say perfect, I mean perfect. This is the perfect package for you, because classical face reading, as we were taught it, is almost entirely diagnostic. And that was one of the most frustrating things for me, knowing who I am and what I do, to hear Lillian talk about all the different things that were going on with a person, but then referring them to a therapist to get it fixed. To me, if you're going to open Pandora's box, you better have the ability to close it. Right. And so one of the things I did with our training is I started integrating our change work techniques in with our face reading silos so that people could diagnose, or at least evaluate, and then fix what's happening. So you don't have to refer them out. You can fix it right then and there on the spot. You can add another revenue stream to your business, and you can do well by doing good. Okay. Because a lot of times when you dredge up people's stuff and then refer them out, they don't follow up, because by the time they hit the parking lot, they've rationalized it away. So sometimes when you've got the hood up, you got to fix the car, right? And this is the way that we do that. Okay, this is the way we balance that equation, right? So total value, it's a $1,497 value. It comes with a complete manual. We may even throw some video. Well, you got the videos, obviously, right? You can take transcripts. You can do whatever you want. So total value on this is $5,491. We're going to give this to you absolutely free if you grab your face reading super package, because we want you to be ready. We want you to have everything you need to move the needle, to move this forward. Right? For those of you, by the way, because it's going to come up, some of you may have bought this package in the past at different price points or under different circumstances. For those of you who have this package already, if you've already bought this package, all you really need to do is reach out to Moss or Mia, and we will actually substitute courses for you. We'll replace whatever courses you got outside of this webinar with things of equal or lesser value. So you have your own customized package. You don't have to buy the same thing twice. Okay. So all you have to do for that to happen is just reach out to Moss at 858-282-4663, or you can email Moss at nlppower.com. Mia is also available. And Moss, Mia, if you guys could post your contact information in the chat for people, I think that would be helpful. We're also going to include another approach to reading body language and understanding people. This is a program I did back in the day called People Reading for Fun and Profit, Body Language Secrets Home Study Course. And this is about how to read people through their body, through their clothing choices, things of that nature. It'll teach you how to understand the body language of attraction. There are 7 distinct body language phases that human beings go through when they go from perfect stranger to deep level physical intimacy. And once you understand those 7 phases, you can take that frame and impose it on any form of social or professional interaction where 2 people get together to create something else. Business partnerships, negotiations, mediations, job interviews. You can actually look at those stages and be able to speed read what level of connection and belief and trust that person's at in that relationship. So it starts with dating and attraction, because that's, to me, the archetype of all interrelational transactions. Once we have that, we can extrapolate it to everything else. We're going to teach you the 15 most important deception cues, how to detect lies and other deceptive behaviors. There's at least 15 that the CIA regularly use, plus my training with Chase and my training in kinesic interview and interrogation. We're going to give you the fundamentals of lie detection and other deceptive behaviors. We're going to teach you about influencing people without using your words. Okay. These are ways that you can stand, where you can stand, how you can stand. There's stuff we also cover in Killer Influence. How to project charm, confidence, and charisma on command. Did you know that confidence and charisma actually has a body posture? And if you understand that body posture, you can emanate and actually generate more confidence and charisma just by how you stand and breathe. You're going to learn how to, ladies, you're going to learn how to understand men better. Men, you're going to learn how to understand women better. We're going to teach you how to dress for success and a whole lot more. We're going to teach you how to eliminate the behaviors that weaken your influence and your charisma and your leadership abilities, how to close more deals and get more dates, and how to really embody the body language that allows you to project that confidence, that certainty, that level of leadership that people are looking for in you. Okay. This is a $1,497 value. It's yours free. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. It's a $6,988 value, but we're not done yet. Well, let's review. Okay. So the first we're going to start with is the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course, valued at $1,997. We're going to add on that the Speed Profiling Defense Against the Dark Arts Home Study course. We're going to give that to you for free, $1,997. We're going to give you the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Zero to Hero Rockstar Home Study course for free, $1,497 value, free for you. Right? We're going to give you People Reading for Fun and Profit, the 2-day body language intensive, $1,497 value, yours for free. You're going to get total value on this is $6,988, but spoiler alert, surprise! 2 birthdays for the price of one. I'm celebrating the birth of my lovely daughter, Tracy Erin Snyder, out in Arizona. And of course, me in April 20th, 1966, yours truly came out of the womb saying, what the fuck is happening? Right? So for that, because it's my birthday, because it's my daughter's birthday, because I want to celebrate, I want to give you a gift. Okay? And that gift is this. The best deal humanly possible. It's not going to be $69.88. It's not going to be $34.97. It's not going to be $14.97. In fact, it's not even going to be $9.97, guys. For everything that I've just explained to you, and maybe a whole bunch more, you can get it all for one low installment of just $7.97 or 3 easy payments of $3.97 each. All you've got to do is go to www.nlppower.com/face. Click this link, nlppower.com/FACE. Click that link. You're going to get all these bonuses, instant digital downloads. And for those of you who are maybe on the fence, my challenge for you, grab your program, click this link now, test it, work it, use it for 60 days. Bug us on the phone. Tell us, email us, call us, make Moss's life miserable with all the questions you could possibly ask about face reading. Test this material out there for 60 days. If after 60 days, you're not on the fast track to understanding people better, reading personalities in 7 seconds or less, and using that to attract more success in your life, to manifest the life of your dreams and be more secure and confident and powerful. If you're not winning social encounter after social encounter, if you don't feel safer and more comfortable and more aware of people, if you're not on the fast track to moving the needle of your life in the direction you've always wanted to go, pick up the phone, send us an email, let us know, and we'll refund every cent you invested. But I promise you, if you actually work these skills and you put them and you apply them in your daily life, your life will change, and it'll change a lot. Okay? But nothing changes until you take the step by clicking the link and making the decision to be and do and have something different. Right? I'm really good at shortening the learning curve, but I can't eliminate it. So if you're ready to level up, if you're ready to take that next step, to see more, to know more, to do more, to be and have more, to help more people, to make your life more secure in all the ways that are important to you, then by all means, click your link. It's waiting for you on the other side. Okay? For those of you who have, you have nothing to risk here, and that's asking how long will it take to go through all these courses? Great question. You can be up and running in as little as 2 or 3 days if you actually take the material out and use it. And again, depending on how you chunk the information, you can start using it right away, right? And I would take the information from this webinar after you click the link and just go out and start looking, testing the information, right? But each of the courses is around 24 to 30 hours. So it's not uncommon for people to binge watch this stuff. Right? I recommend you take it in a stepped approach. And if you have specific applications that you want to focus on, call us.
we will be happy to say, okay, instead of doing the programs in this order, start with this program, then go to this program, then go to this program. We will help you customize your own path through this material. That's our job, right? It's not just to throw products at you and say, okay, you're on your own, bye. We don't do that, right? Our job is to make you and help you become successful. So if you have questions, we've got answers, okay? But nothing happens until you click the link, okay? But if you have questions, call us, email us. We will give you exactly the direction you need to get from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest amount of time possible. And if it doesn't work, we'll refund you. Okay? That's just how it is. Click the link right now, www.nlppower.com/FACE. Okay? So again, everything we've talked about, this whole package is available until tonight, April 17th, 2025, 11:59 p.m. If you click the link anytime between now and 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, Shane just purchased. Congratulations, Shane. Welcome to the family. I can't wait to see you on the other side, my brother. All right. Everything is good until 11:59 p.m. For those of you, Nathan says, thank you so much. I have always loved your stuff. Cool, Nathan. Thank you so much for that. I'm glad. Thank you for your support all these years. I know you've been around for a while. So I really appreciate all of you. So here's the deal. Some of you, you've been around for a while. You're just pulling the trigger now. Some of you like fast action. They like the ability to get as much as they can, as fast as they can, and go as far as they can. So for those of you who are still on the fence, if you click that link right now, and if you've already clicked the link, happy birthday. You just got these, right? Didn't know it. You get these fast action bonuses. You're going to get a 3-month membership to my NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. The NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program is the world's longest running self-help NLP and hypnosis practice group in the world. It's been running nonstop since October of 2010. Okay, so well over 13 years. We meet on the third Saturday of every month. On the third Saturday of every month, people log in or they come to my office and I say, okay, what do you want? Jake, what do you want to learn? It's Chris, what do you want to learn? Heather, what do you want to learn? Tracy, what do you want to learn? Shane, what do you want to learn? Annette, what do you want to learn? Right? Nathan, what do you want to learn? Right? And I sit back and they tell me what they want to learn. And I write them all on the board. And I step back and I look at where they all kind of connect and intersect. And I create a lesson plan on the spot. And for the next 5 hours, we drill those skills until you can do them in your sleep. And we send you back out into the world to apply those skills in the real world in real time to move your life forward. Okay? You will not get a certificate from the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. What you do get is something much more valuable, much more important. You get skill sets. You get a community. You get feedback from me, from my advanced students, and you get the ability to interact and train and practice and just get better. And you have people just like you who are interested in the exact same things you are, helping each other, supporting each other, getting better, right? If you ever felt like a lonely wizard wandering off in the wilderness with nobody to talk to about this stuff without them thinking you're weird or creepy or whatever, welcome home. Okay. Now, the beauty of that is it's been running every single month, month after month after month, since October of 2010. We've videotaped every single training, and we've archived that video in our Kajabi site, on our YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Now, Facebook just recently made some changes to their live streaming policy. So we're now in the process of slowly moving all the mastermind content into a Kajabi platform where you'll be able to access the entire 13-year archive. Stuff that's never been shown on YouTube, never been in a product, never seen the light of day. The only people that's ever seen this material are the people in the mastermind. Okay, as a 3-month trial, as part of your 3-month trial, you'll have unlimited access to that entire archive. You can binge watch to your heart's content. Right? At the end of 90 days, if you want to stay, we'll show you how to extend your membership. If you're good, you got what you came for, you got some good stuff, you got skills, and you're ready to go out and kick ass in the world solo, no harm, no foul. We'll bid you the best. We'll wish you the best of luck and say come back anytime. But it's really about you, right? I love the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. It's produced some of the best practitioners, some of the nicest people I've ever met. right? And I'm very, very proud of the things they've accomplished as a group. So I invite you to really become part of that group and really plumb that resource for everything that you can, right? Because it's just going to take all of the skills in your courses to the next level. Total value on this is $1,997. We're going to include this free. Why? Because once again, we want you to be successful, right? We want you to have all of the ingredients that you need to apply the material. And one thing that most people miss, they watch a video set maybe once, maybe twice, if you're exceptional, and then they never touch it again. Why? Because they don't have anybody to practice with. They don't have anybody to practice on. They don't have anybody to give them feedback. They don't have people to talk to about this stuff without feeling weird. Now you do. Annette says, I just purchased it. Can't wait to start. Welcome, Annette. Thank you. Welcome to the family. Can't wait to see you on the other side. So for those of you who are on the fence, well, would now be a good time to click that link, reserve your spot, and join the movement. Let's change the world one person at a time, starting with your world, right? Total combined value on this is $8,985. But we're not done yet, guys. We're not done yet. Click your link right now. We're also going to give you face reading level 2. This is everything below the mask. This is everything that's going to take everything you learned in face reading level 1 and just take it even further. You'll be able to see the profile of the face from the side. You'll learn about the ears. You'll learn about how to diagnose all the different aspects of the mouth. You learn how to extrapolate and combine traits to make more complicated psychological profiles, right? It's going to take your ability to do face reading and apply it in coaching, apply it in sales and marketing, apply it in your negotiation and mediation, in your job and interviewing skills. It's going to take that to a whole new level. Once again, this is the Face Reading for Fun and Profit series is based on eye tracking movement, not on Chinese 5-element theory. Now, what do I mean by that? In Chinese 5-element theory, or in Chinese 5-element face reading, if you go into a Jing class, the first thing you're going to learn about is all the water features on the face, right? And you'll study all the water features. Then you'll study all the fire features, which are tips and corners, right? And then you'll study all the wood features. And then you'll study, and again, it presupposes that you are fully familiar with the nonlinear circular Chinese systems. The Face Reading for Fun and Profit level system is linear. It's based on a very different way to look at the face. It's based on eye tracking. When a human being looks at a face or at a printed page, their eyes automatically track, in most cases, left to right, zigzags top to bottom. Okay, that's how we look at a page. When a person looks at the face, there's 3 basic options that happen. We look at their eyes, or we gaze into the area around the eyes, hence level 1 training. We look at their mouth, hence level 2 training, or we oscillate back and forth between the eyes and the mouth. That's how people naturally, organically, biologically, evolutionarily are programmed to read faces. And so that's how we structured the content, so that you can actually go from the top of the head to the hairline all the way to the chin line, and in 90 seconds have a complete behavioral and temperament profile of that human being, right? That's why we can do it so fast, because it's literally right down the front of the face, right? It's super simple. It's super easy. And we actually test you on it. On day 3, we actually put pictures of people on the board that other people in the class posted, and someone who didn't post it has to read that face, and the person in the room actually validates how accurate the profile was, right? It's really, really powerful. It's a lot of fun, and it just will explode everything you've already learned. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. So the total combined value on everything I've talked about so far is $10,982. But guess what? Just like they say in the Ronco commercials, but wait, there's more. We have one last thing for you. Well, maybe one last thing. I can neither confirm nor deny that there might be some other thing waiting in the wings that I haven't talked about yet. But for those of you who clicked your link right now, those of you who've already clicked your link, you've already got this. Welcome. You're welcome. Or as Maui would say, what can I say except you're welcome, right? I get excited when I get to this point, and it's largely because I know what's waiting for you. Like, I know how the world is going to change for you. when you start applying this material. I get excited because I remember what it was like for me. And one of the greatest joys that I have in this work is watching the lights come on in other human beings as they tap into their potential, as they unleash the magic that's inside of them. So when I get to this portion every time, that's why my energy changes. I get so excited about what's coming for you, right? It's why I do this, right? So $10,982 value, but we got one more thing for you. So go ahead and click your link, and you'll also get the next 21 people who register today. Actually, there's a typo there. Actually, there's well, that didn't work out the way I planned it. You'll have to forgive me because apparently I've got the wrong slide. So write this down. In fact, let's maybe, all right. So our face reading for Fun and Profit is coming up in 10 days. That's April 23rd, 22nd through the 25th. Is that right, guys? Guys, can you post the actual dates? Sorry, every now and then I have a typo. I can't believe this. Yeah, April 25th to the 27th here in San Diego. We're doing face reading for Fun and Profit, practitioner certification level 1. You'll be learning how to read anyone instantly, how to predict behavior, gain rapport instantly, speed read people's emotions, influence people's behaviors very easily, detect lies, hidden traumas, and more. Total value on this is $27.50, not $31.50. So I'm sorry, this somehow, some way, this slide got like half done, and I didn't catch it. Right? Happens at least once a class. So, but anyway, admit says you are human, David. Apparently, I'm more human than I like to admit. All right. So anyway, April 25th to the 27th. Wait, what? April 25th to 27th. Okay. Anyway, $27.50. We're going to give you a free VIP ticket to this class. Now, let me explain something to you. There is a hybrid option for this class. So if you can't make it April 22nd or 25th to the 27th, you can Zoom in. I would much rather and highly encourage you to be there live. You get this absolutely free. Okay. This is a free ticket. You get to show up, and actually participate in the class the full 3 days. We'll take you step by step. You'll do reading after reading after reading. I'll even throw in a bunch of extras. Okay. It's a $2,750 value. It's April 25th to the 27th. It's a 3-day, not a 5-day. Like I said, that got mixed up with another slide. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. Okay. Total value on this so far is $14,132. So let's review. Oh, unannounced special. Remember I said there might or might not be something else. For those of you who click this link right now, if you've already clicked the link, you've got this already. The next 15 people who've clicked that link are going to get a free VIP ticket to our next virtual healing intensive. This is 3 days of me doing nothing but therapy and transformational work on you as part of a group. Transformation after transformation after transformation. We'll get over limiting beliefs, overcome fears and phobias, remove physical, mental, and emotional pain, discover all of your self-sabotage and get rid of it. We'll teach you the 3 most important transformation techniques on the planet that allow you to continue to heal long after the training. You'll actually have me systematically removing those negative voices in your head and installing a better one right then and there. This is a virtual training. You don't have to travel anywhere, right? It's 100% online. We cap it at about 25 to 30, right? It's a $1,497 value. It's going to take place May 2nd to May 4th, 2025. And once again, in case it wasn't caught the first 5 times I said it, it is 100% virtual. 100%. Okay. If you have questions about the intensive, if there's anybody who's taken one of the healing intensives and you're on the chat with us, please type in your experience from the intensive so people know what they're in for. France Zanini says, what about me? I'm in Australia. Would it be time zone friendly? This will be on Pacific time, so everybody's going to have to adjust. When people from Cyprus call in, they call in at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Unfortunately, we can't be friendly to everyone. So it is what it is. Julie Holmes says the healing intensive is amazing. It's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And again, if you click the link already, guys, you already got this, right? If you were on the fence and you got shit you want to, maybe you don't want to go around reading people, but you would rather get your own stuff handled and you'd like me to help you do that. This is the opportunity, right? This is the ability to have me do change work with you for 3 solid days as part of a group. We'll have a very well-trained team of helpers and assistants who, if you need extra one-on-one help, they're highly qualified and they're willing to help you. They'll put you in a private room, guide you through processes to really get you clear. When you come out on the other side, you will be a different person. You will be more of the person that you truly, truly want to be, with a lot of the blocks that were holding you back gone, right? And you'll have a couple of tools that you can start to apply in your own life right away, so that if stuff comes up, you're ready, right? And you'll always know where to find more help if you need it. That's our job. That's our job. We do well by doing good. Okay. So it's a $1,497 value. All right. You'll dissolve negativity you didn't even know you had. You get rid of physical and emotional pain, resolve traumas, phobias, and self-sabotage, put a dead stop, halt to procrastination, destroy limiting belief once and for all. It's a $1,497 value. Oops. Combined, hold on a second, I'm all over the map here. Total value on this is $15,629. And for those of you who come to the live face reading training, in other words, those of you who get off your butts and travel to beautiful downtown San Diego, during this webinar, you saw me talk a lot about NLP training. Now, to get certified in NLP with me, there are prerequisites. You have to have identity by design. You have to, or killer influence, or both. We'd like you to have both, right? You have to have those to walk in the door. For those of you who are willing to come to San Diego in 10 days for the next face reading certification, the 3-day face reading certification. For those of you in the room physically, let me say that 2 more times in case you were wondering. You have to come to the room physically for 3 days. If you come to the live training and you stay the whole 3 days, I will unlock the prerequisites. I will waive the prerequisite trainings that you have to attend, and you can come to the NLP 5-day practitioner certification intensive in May. Okay, that is my super secret birthday gift to you. Moss had a fit when I was telling him about this because he's a stickler on prereqs, right? But for those of you who want as much as humanly possible, for those of you who want to go as far as you can, as fast as you can, if you've ever wanted to get trained in neurolinguistic programming by one of the top guys in the world, arguably I'm one of them, it's never going to be easier. Okay. All you got to do is click your link, show up in San Diego, April 25th to the 27th, and you can come to NLP Cert next month. Seth is trying to give you all warnings. Yeah, you're going to have to do some studying, but I don't normally do this. In fact, anybody who's been around Planet David for any period of time will tell you I've never done this. So because it's my birthday, it's my daughter's birthday, this is what you're getting. You're going to get your face reading for Secrets of Face Reading home study course, valued at $1,997. You're going to get Defense Against the Dark Arts for free, $1,997 value. You're going to get Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design, $1,497 value. You're going to get it for free. People Reading for Fun and Profit home study course, $1,497. You're going to get it for free. You're going to get the 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program and the archive, $1,997 value, free. You're going to get the Face Reading for Fun and Profit, level 2 home study course, $1,997 value, free. You're going to get the live VIP ticket to the Face Reading for Fun and Profit level 1 certification, April 25th to the 27th, here in San Diego. Now, remember, you can attend this certification virtually, but if you have aspirations to become an NLP practitioner with me, you have to be here live. That's the only way we waive the benefits. Okay. It's a $2,750 value. We're going to give this to you free. You're going to get, as an extra special bonus, the online 3-day virtual healing intensive, May 2nd to 4th. And you can do that from anywhere in the world. Okay. $1,497 value, completely free. So total value, $15,229. You can get it all today for just one installment of $797. Or if you need a little help, you can break that up into 3 easy installments of $397 each. Just click your link right now, www.nlppower.com/FACE, and we will absolutely get your stuff handled in the shortest amount of time possible. Okay. Now, here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to give you guys a 5 or 6 minute break so you can go click your links, ask questions, do whatever. When we come back, we're going to drill down into the deeper aspects of the face. We're going to customize the content to the applications that you most want to learn about. We're going to talk about eyebrows. We're going to talk about the other aspects or other ways to speed read the body for specific applications. And then and I'll answer any questions that you have for as long as we're together. Does that sound like a plan? Right. So after you click your links, go ahead and type any questions that you have in the chat, and I'll start answering them as soon as I get back from break. Okay. Moss and Mia are standing by for to help you out. Oh, a couple of things about this before we go. If you've bought any of the courses that are included in this program previously, like I mentioned before, that's okay. Let Moss or Mia know, and we will let you substitute any program you want of equal or lesser value, so you can get a custom package and you don't have to dupe, you don't have to paying extra money for the same thing. Okay. The VIP tickets that come with this offer have no expiration date. So if for some reason you can't make the training on the 25th to the 27th, just pick up the phone, let Moss or Mia know. We'll move you to the next face reading training. If you want to gift that VIP, maybe you've been to face reading already, but you want to gift that VIP ticket to somebody else who wants to learn to attend live in person, you can do that. Just let us know. If something happens at the last minute that you can't attend the training, pick up the phone, send us an email, let us know. And we will hold that ticket for you until you're ready to use it. You have it until you use it. If we raise the price between now and the time you come to the training, you don't pay anything extra. Okay. If we do this training in another country where we're doing things in euros, right, or pound sterling, where we always charge by the local currency when we go to other countries. Okay. Usually because of the exchange rates and stuff. You don't pay anything extra, right? So Nathan's saying, if we can't be in person and do Zoom, could we still gift the VIP? Well, if you're Zooming in, I am assuming that you're using the VIP ticket yourself. Right? Two of you can't come in, right? It's either you or someone you're giving the VIP ticket to. It's not a twofer, right? So it's either you showing up or it's someone you're gifting the ticket to. Okay. It's a good question, though. I'm glad we cleared up any confusion on that. All right. So that's what we got. Click your links. When I come back, we'll drill down on more face stuff. So I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes. So we'll come back at 6:14 or 15 Pacific time, whatever time that is for you. We'll see you in a little bit. All right. It's almost time, folks. Had to grab a little snack, make sure my blood sugar's up. All right. So we're now entering part 3. If you haven't clicked the link, when would now be a good time? I'm actually working on a little fun factoid. I've been consumed probably for the last 20 weeks at least with collating and putting together new versions of the face reading for fun and profit materials, as well as expanding on the materials that I got from my teacher. And I've been working on our first book. It's called How to Decode Anyone in 7 Seconds or Less. We've got a mini version that we're working on right now, and then there'll be a much more fleshed out version of it probably in a few months. But I'm excited because thanks to things like Chat GPT and other types of AI research assistants, we've been able to actually scientifically corroborate a lot of the stuff that we've been teaching over the years. And we've been able to put all that information and bring the best of the ancient systems and into harmony with modern scientific analysis and discoveries. And so for those of you coming to face reading next month, I'm actually going to be using a lot of that material as part of the new curriculum. So those of you who've been in face reading before, you may want to come out and see what the latest updates are and things like that, or zoom in or whatever. But just a little fun factoid is that we're going to actually be revealing some really cool stuff that you may not have found in any face reading books ever, right? Very cool. Anyway, that being said, we've now officially entered part 3 of the webinar. So I'm going to jump out of screen share so you can see my lovely face in all my glory, right? And now this is where we get to talk a little bit because like I said, I don't like to run webinars where I just do death by PowerPoint, right? I like people to come in and feel like they're part of something big, part of an actual event, and to be able to get the answers to the questions that they came for without necessarily going away feeling like they were teased or starved, right? There's always going to be more. This is something I really want to emphasize. In Planet David, and this is important. And if you spend any amount of time in Planet David, you're going to hear this phrase a lot, or this comparison a lot. There's 2 kinds of people that come through Planet David, or who go through trainings anyway, not necessarily Planet David. There's what I call the achievers, and then there's who I call the chronically overtrained. And I love both of them, right? They both buy courses. But there's one group that I tend to love a little bit more, and those are the achievers. Now, both groups are usually very smart, highly motivated, very intelligent, well-resourced people. Both groups realize that there's always more to learn. There's always going to be more to learn. What separates the achievers from the chronically overtrained is that the achievers understand that no matter how much they have or how little they have and how much more there is to learn, they have enough to start taking action, and so they do. And they become amazing. They create the world they want. The chronically overtrained, they understand that there's always more to learn. And they will start as soon as they're done learning. But they're never done learning. So they never start. So I want to warn you going in that when you start embarking on this journey of transformation, learning things only takes you so far. Learning things only takes you so far. At some point, you got to roll up your sleeves, get off your butt, do the drills, and go out and apply the skills. And everything in Planet David is about taking action in the real world. So if you're finally ready to step it up, you can click your links and walk beside us as we guide you to become the person you want to be. That being said, if you're not in a place for that yet, then you're not ready. It's just that simple. And that's okay. You can stay the same until you decide you want something different, right? And that's not a scarcity tactic. It's how we feel. As people often say, do what you, as I often tell people who tell me they either don't have enough time, they don't have enough resources, it's too complicated, I don't know if I can do all that much training. Here's what I say. Do what you can until you're ready to do more. It's that simple, right? Now, there's some of you who are ready to go, and we're ready to help you. Some of you need to simmer a little bit more. You need to kind of stew where you're at, and that's okay too, right? All right, so let's look at what's going on in the chats. Anthony Anderson says, I do feel like a wizard. Everything you said so far feels like something I already know, mostly confirmations, and I love it, even if it's scary without tools, really, but thank you so far. Excellent. Raynham is saying, it's interesting comparing our experiences in the virtual reality and the experiences we have had there, as well as the rest of our skill sets and expanded data. Audacity is saying, yes, I agree. Confirmative indeed. Okay. People in the other side, there's a lot of chat going on over here. All right. So here's where we at. Here's where I asked the $1 million question again. What do you, hello from Fresno. How much, what do you guys want to learn next? What do you guys want me to talk about? Tell me what you want to learn before I make an arbitrary, as I joke with my students, tell me what you want to learn before I make an arbitrary decision. You want to learn about emotions? You want to learn about the 7-second profiling aspects, like the eyebrow, the lips, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to focus on something else? What do you guys want to know most about in the time we have left? Don't be bashful. Now's a good time. Now's the time to speak. Okay, so 7-second profile. Okay. Now remember, we say 7-second profile, we mean you look at somebody and in 7 seconds, you've acquired this information and are creating a profile, right? Doesn't mean you're going to learn it in 7 seconds. You understand? This is a skill set. So I want to be very clear on setting expectations. So one of the first places we want to look at when we start to look at people is we want to look at their face shape. Now, generally speaking, when you see someone who has a very, very big head, and when I say big, I mean it's wide. Let me see if I can think of a Brad Pitt or a George Clooney kind of a person, or a Winston Churchill, right? These guys tend to be very dominant, very assertive. Okay. And they often don't realize how dominant and assertive they are. They just move through the world saying, with the idea of my way or the highway. Like anybody else has an idea, it's stupid compared to theirs, right? We call these people lions in the Taoist and the Buddhist systems I was taught. There's four personality types. You have lions, you have beavers, otters, and golden retrievers. The lions of the world are very, very dominant. They are always wanting to be in control. They're usually, people just usually give control to them because they have such a dominant presence. They tend to take up a lot of space, and they have very, very strong features. So you'll see in these people often very, very wide, very, very large heads, a lot of bone. Now, if you look at a guy like a Winston Churchill, which I don't have the pictures here, I was trying to get the pictures together for you, but I ran out of time. As you can see by my half-done PowerPoint, I was struggling with ChatGPT to find the resources I wanted. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the names and the faces that you can look at out there, and you can compare and contrast them. But these people have very squarish faces. We call these people very earthy. A lot of times they're very dominant. They're often quite traditional. They're very conservative, right? The more rectangular or narrower a person's face tends to be, the more malleable, well, the more flexible they'll tend to be, I guess is a good way to say it. They're still very dominant people. But hold on a second, there's some stuff in the chat here. if you're asking me about things to do with like emotional healing and stuff like that, that's not really the focus of today's training, if that makes sense. So I would refer you to our how to reprogram your subconscious mind, or any of the trainings where we're dealing with personal transformation. Okay. Again, I want to keep everything on topic for you guys. So usually the softer a person's features, let me see if I can find, let me just give me a minute. Let me see if I can find some graphics for you. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to find them in a timely way. All right. So if you have somebody who has more soft, fleshy features, these people are going to be a little bit more accommodating. They're going to be a little bit more nurturing. The more rigid or taut the skin tends to be, these are people who are going to tend to be a little bit more direct, a little bit more blunt, right? We would say they're more metallic. If they have very refined, very aquiline features, they're going to have a lot of metal. So their anger will tend, when they tell people things, they'll be very direct, often quite cold. The more flesh a person has on their faces, the more nurturing they'll tend to be. If you see a lot of curves and roundedness to the features, you'll see the effects of estrogen. These people tend to be more enfolding, more enveloping, more nurturing in terms of emotion and things of that nature. So Shane is asking, can you expand on the lion, the otter, the golden retriever? Absolutely. So when we're dealing with people like the lion, for example, and you'll know this, you'll often flag these people more behaviorally at first than you will through their facial architecture. These people, if they come to you as let's say you're a coach or a therapist, and they're telling you their problem, and they say, and you give them a direction, they go, well, I don't want to do that. That's stupid. They argue with you. They're usually vying for dominance. So when you're dealing with lion type people, you have to be a little bit more strategic. You have to give them the illusion of choice, right? You have to let them decide. Lions tend to argue with any decision or request that you make of them reactantly, because it wasn't theirs. It wasn't their idea. If it's their idea, they love it. If it's not their idea, it was stupid. So you have to frame things in such a way that it's always their idea, or they have a choice. So if you say, well, look, there's 3 or 4 ways we could go about this. We could do it this, or this. Now, all of those 4 things lead to your outcome, right? They're going to do all the things you want them to do. You just let them decide how they want to do it, right? So you get to decide the what, they decide the how. And a lot of times that will give you a compliance with someone with these very big my way or the highway type features. Now, for those of you who have got the package, when you start going through your defense against the dark arts training, you're going to see a protocol in there called the resistance removal formula. This formula is designed to take somebody who said they will not, who looked you in the eye and said, I do not want to do what you want me to do. It's designed to take someone who's just done that, and in just a couple minutes, make them want to do the thing they just told you they didn't want to do. It's that powerful. Okay. This particular method works really, really well on lion type personalities, people who have very earthy or very woody personalities. Metallic people, which again, I'm getting kind of 5 element theory on you, right? Can also be very, very strict about their boundaries. But what we're looking at, whether the face is very aquiline, very rough in terms of like the bone structure, like if it looks like tree branches, or it's very fleshy, what we're looking at is the size and the width of the head. The more broad the head, the more dominant and assertive that person will tend to be cross-contextually, right? In the face reading that I went through, that Shane and I went through, Shane's in the other Shane Krukow, we were taught about something called the hedonist jaw and the dictator jaw. And if you look at pictures of famous dictators, Hitler, Mussolini, Idi Amin, if you look at them when they're young and you look at them decades later, you will see the jaw getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was there when they were young. So when there's a lot of extra bone in the jaw and the face gets broad, or the face gets broad this way, you're looking at someone who's very much more of a lion in how they move through the world. They're going to tend to be a little bit more rigid in their thinking. Okay, you see this head shape on a lot of generals, a lot of career soldiers, career military. You see this a lot. Okay. Questions on that? No questions? All right. So let's talk about the other three personality types. How do you soften them? A, you have to let them think they're in charge. One of the best ways to work with lions is, instead of telling them what to do, you ask their opinion. You ask their opinions. You give them the illusions of choice. You create autonomy with them, right? You create an alliance with them. I had a client, one of my students, who is a consultant for a lot of very wealthy, like business developers, consultant, contractors, things of that nature. And she's a biologist that studies environmental impact of the things that these people are trying to build. And she has very different politics, a very different worldview. And she came to me because she was always having trouble getting the people who hired her to give them her opinion to actually take her suggestions, right? And it was because she was talking to them like they were equals. And these people, from their perspective, just did not look at her as an equal. They were paying her, they were writing her check. And so for her to tell them what to do, or what they need to do, or have to do, or should do, created massive levels of reactance in them. And so we gave her a little insight into the psychology of how these people think. And she started softening things. And as far as I know, she's actually getting, I believe she's getting a lot more accomplished with these people, because once again, she's being strategic in how she works with them. Here's something I want you to remember. And it's true in face reading, whether you're using face reading or not. You're going to encounter resistance and reactance to every form of influence that you apply, unless you understand reactance and resistance. Okay? People instinctively, inherently resist anything that threatens how they see themselves. If you ask somebody to do something, or tell them to do something in a way that threatens how they see themselves, they'll push back and they'll resist you. If you ask somebody to do something, or tell somebody to do something that threatens how they believe other people will see them, they will resist you. If you ask people to do something, or tell people to do something that threatens what they have accepted as true, they will resist you. Face reading: public face, private face. You ask me in a business context to do something that threatens how I believe you're supposed to perceive me, I'm going to resist you. Private face: you ask me to do something that threatens how I feel about myself, I'm going to resist you. Okay, so we can start to map across public face, private face, these types of resistance. What would I read in my own face? No parking. Okay, I'm teasing. I still got some stuff to work on when I read my own face, but I'm doing the work, so I'm getting there. Right. One of the cool things about face reading, if you really go down the rabbit hole, it gets kind of woo-woo really fast once you get past the stuff we're scientifically validating and getting into the transformational work of it. You'll see people's faces change right in front of you. As you're doing the change work and you're walking them through these experiences and stuff like that, like you'll see wrinkles disappear. You'll see noses get longer, shorter, wider, cheeks will pop out, brow bones will be there that weren't there 10 minutes ago. It's crazy. But it's true. It's real. Right. And you can ask any of the face readers. Shane's in here. Seth is in here. I think Nathan or Liam are in here. Anybody who's done the face reading for those particular applications has seen faces change right in front of us. Tara Tucci says, greetings from Pennsylvania. Greetings, PA. Seth says we've seen faces change. Yes. So let's talk about the other three personality types really quickly. And I'll give you some ways that you can start to spot that information. Hey, let's talk about beavers. Now, beavers are all playing the beaver role is also an attempt at dominating the situation, but they do it in a very different way. Beavers are the proverbial class clowns. So they're usually quite fiery. Like they usually have, they'll sometimes have pointy features. They'll sometimes be a little bit on the small side. They usually look a little bit elf-like sometimes, right? Now it doesn't mean you can have a watery type body or a very soft fleshy body and still be the class clown. Okay, a lot of people do. But what's interesting about beavers is that they're always trying to keep it light. So the way it was explained to me by my teacher was that if you have a beaver, a lion, an otter, and a golden retriever sitting at a table making little clay statues or little clay figures, right? You know, how many people here are old enough to remember the little plastic army men? Right? In our energy training, we actually use that metaphor. But if let's say I had you at a table, we're making clay figures, right? The lion would say, "This is stupid. I don't want to do this." Right? The otter or the beaver would say, he'd be pelting you with little balls of clay. You know the guy in class. You'd be in art class, and all of a sudden you get pelted with little clay missiles from across the room because they're throwing the clay at you rather than making their little clay soldier. Right? That's a beaver. That's a person trying to assert dominance in an environment where they're not in charge through humor, the proverbial class clowns. So you'll always see what's interesting is a lot of times is that when a beaver is actually put in charge, they become a lion. I've seen this in some of my students. Like when I'm teaching class, they're joking and laughing and you know, goofing off and stuff like that. And then when they teach a class somewhere and I kind of log in, they're super, right? They're very different, right? And it's a very common coping strategy. So anytime you see the beaver behavior, the class clown, the joking, the quipping, the repartee, right? You're seeing somebody who's trying to assert dominance covertly through humor, through acting out, right? Now, do you call them on it? No, you just manage it, right? So what are some things that would lend itself to that kind of behavior? Well, usually you're looking at the effect of dopamine and testosterone. Okay, so in people who are going to be more that way, you'll tend to see broader features. You'll tend to see more pronounced brow bones, more pronounced jaws. They may have pointy features. They may be small or big. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of stand-up comedians have very, very earthy, very watery type features. They're very soft. They're very earthy that way. I think that's body armor primarily because a lot of comedians are angry, for lack of a better word. That's a lot of the anger comes out that way. So that's a beaver. Beaver is going to be someone who's always laughing. I'm a beaver a lot of times in fact, I spend a lot of time having to intentionally not do that. But when I was teaching sleepwalkers back in the early 2000s, and we would bring in a guest speaker, I wouldn't shut up, right? I didn't realize the program I was running at the time. And most of the time my humor was welcome and I was in charge anyway, so fuck them. But the whole point is that there was this part of me that wanted to assert some level of dominance by giving comments or opinions or remarks or things of that nature. So when you see that, understand what you're looking at. Yes, these people they don't mean any harm. It's just how they cope with the situation. So that we have the lion, we have the beaver. Let's talk about the otter. The otter is the evil stepchild of the beaver. And it's not evil in the respect that they're malevolent or anything like that. What I mean is where the beaver is easygoing, playful, fun-loving, not taking anything really serious. The otter is the studious one. The otter is the one that if you looked at their little clay figure, every piece of clothing would have massive amounts of detail. From a face reading perspective, a classical face reading perspective, we would say these people are super metallic. Metal is all about the details. It's all about the fine print. If you were to look at like the belt buckles of the clay soldier, it would have like an actual belt buckle, and you would see the little dots in the belts, and you would see the holster, and you would see all of these things, because that's how an otter thinks. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get that backwards? Oh, sorry. Reverse that. Otter is playful. Beaver is metal. Sorry. I got my rodents wrong. They both swim, right? So your beaver is the metal one. Your otter is the playful one. My bad. I sometimes am like Stixic, so you'll get that anyway. And the final one in the mix is what we call the golden retriever. The golden retriever is the cheerleader of the group. This is the person that goes to the lion guy and says, "Oh my God, you're so smart. I'll bet you can do it really good." And he goes over to the otter and says, "Oh, yours is really, really funny. I like that. It's really, really good." And then he goes over to the otter and goes, "Oh my God, look how detailed yours is. That is so amazing. I could never do something like that." Right? And so the golden retriever is the social director. They're the ones who are going to be supporting everybody, loving everybody, telling everybody how good they're doing, right? And in Chinese 5-element energy, you would see a lot of fire and a lot of earth in these people. They're very supportive. They're very enfolding. They're very uplifting. They'll tend to have softer features, tend to have more fleshy features, very round. Whereas the earth has tend of a squareness to it. The wood has more of a rectangular face, but they're very big featured people. Very big features, right? Metal can have very big features, but they're usually much more streamlined, right? So once again, the size of the head is what we're looking at in terms of authority and dominance. And then we look at the qualities of that. Are they more rectangular than square, right? But is it big, right? Generally, the bigger the trait, the bigger the data point, the bigger the trait, the more dominant it is, right? Questions about the big picture stuff? Yes, no? You guys are really smart. I'd be having all kinds of questions. All right, so let's move on to something a little bit more. Let's in NLP speak, let's chunk down a little bit. Let's look at one of the first aspects of our 7-second profile, which I think is actually one of the most important features on the entire face. It's one of the very first ones that we learn. And it probably tells us more about that person than just about any other feature. And that, my friends, is the brow. And when I say the brow, I'm talking about the brow bone and the eyebrows themselves. Okay. So again, I don't have time to go through every single variation on the brow. So we're going to get real big picture. Then we're going to look at the mouth. And then if we have time, we'll circle back to the eyes, or the area around the eyes. Does that sound like a plan? This means yes, this means no. Type it in the chat. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump to one of my manuals from face reading. Liam says, it's not that we are that smart. It's just that you explain it in ways that are easy to understand. Nice reframe, Liam. I trained you well, Stallion. All right. All right. Let me find there we go. And again, please feel free to ask questions. The better the question, the better the lesson. All right. So before I get into eyebrows, just a quick reminder, if you're on the fence, right? This is final call number 2. You can click this link for Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course. It's a $1,997 value. You're going to get Defense Against the Dark Arts. You're going to get Identity by Design, Hypnotherapy Home Study course, the People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study course, the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring 3-month trial archive, Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2, Face Reading for Fun and Profit Live VIP ticket. And if you show up live for that event, we will waive the prerequisites so that if you want to come to NLP practitioner certification in May, you'll be able to do that. But you can attend the face reading training either virtually or in person. We highly encourage in-person work. Okay. And of course, you will automatically get a VIP ticket to our next 3-day virtual healing intensive, May 2nd through May 4th. Here, coming live, streaming live to you in your own hometown, in your own living room, bedroom, or office. All you got to do to get yours, it's a $15,229 value. You can get it all for $797. All you got to do is click that link, nlppower.com/face. That's in your chat right now that Mia and Moss are so joyfully and professionally providing for you. Click those links. If you need extra help, you can break that up into 3 installments of $397 each, and you can start downloading your coursework today, and we can start helping us picking our brains and doing everything you need to do. All right, so go ahead and click those links, and then let's talk about the eyebrows. I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger here, just so I can see things a little bit better. Okay, so I'll make this a little smaller now that I know where I'm at. So the eyebrows are one of the most important areas of the face. The vital features of the eyebrow, this equates to the wood element of the body. Now, what does that actually mean in terms of behavior? The wood element, let me make sure I've got okay. The wood element is the achievement element of the body. So when you see somebody who has a really strong wood energy, a really strong they're going to be very forceful in general. They're going to be people who have a lot of drive, who have they tend to have a lot of athleticism, a lot of passion. These are the people who work because they love to work. They may or may not be morning people, but once they get moving, they're pretty much unstoppable. They just keep going and going and going. They have a very, very strong drive, right? They often have a temper, but they're good at controlling it. So when we look at the eyebrows, the first thing we want to know is how strong. Let me go to my pointer here. How strong are these eyebrows? Are they very thick? Are they very full? How long are they? And most importantly, how far apart are those eyebrows? Now, this person has an extremely strong liver, and I don't know if you can see it from your perspective. Oops. But if you look, you can see little tiny hairs in between the brow. Right? We'll get to that. When you see those little hairs in between the brow, we call them a Frankenbrow sometimes, right? When you see someone with those hairs, these people have extra wood energy. So they tend to have a little bit more aggressiveness to them. Now, when I say aggression, I don't necessarily mean they're violent. What I mean is they're very forceful in how they respond to things. People with a strong eyebrow tend to be very, very sensitive to authority. So if they're large and in charge, it's their way or the highway. So even if they don't have a very broad face like what I described, but you see these strong eyebrows, you're looking at somebody who is probably going to work best in charge of a group or working solitary. Now, one of the reasons we want to look at the space between the eyebrows is because this is a measurement of cooperativeness within a group, within a social hierarchy. So people with a lot of space, while they will be dominant, they will be better be able to function within a corporate culture or hierarchy. They'd still much rather be in charge, right? And they'll tend to thrive in that position. The closer together the eyebrows are, the less these people play well with others. They'll tend to be a little bit more egocentric. they'll tend to be a little bit more operating from a little bit more of a sense of entitlement. So one of the ways this was explained to me was that in the Chinese systems, it was called the father's blessing. Father's blessing means that the dominant figures in that person's life taught them how to behave in corporate structures, right? So the dominant authoritative aspect is in the strength of the eyebrow. It doesn't really matter how close the eyebrows are. What we're looking at in terms of dominance and authority is how full are they? How long are they? What is the quality of the eyebrow hairs? How big and prominent is the brow bone? Okay, now the prominence of the brow bone relates to a I'll say a preponderance, for lack of a better word, or a dominance of testosterone in that person's system. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Females have testosterone too. These stronger brow bones, you'll see these people are almost always charting their own course. They're almost always leading groups. They work best in groups if they're the leader. They'll almost always either choose to work as the head of the group. They'll often be the lions in the group. Okay. When we look at the space between the eyebrows, what we're seeing now is how are these people going to express that dominance within a corporate or an organizational structure? So if you see a lot of space between the brows, what you're looking at is somebody who tends to be more easygoing, who can work with the rules, the rituals, the protocols, and the pecking order within a structure. So if this person has what we call a very big father's blessing, then what you're going to see in that person is somebody who says, okay, I'm the low man on the totem pole or low woman on the totem pole, and I have to go to this position to get to that position, to get to this position, to get to that position, and I want that position, so I'm going to go as fast through that process as I can do it ethically without stepping on any toes if I can, right? This person is going to work well within that corporate culture, right? Conversely, you have somebody who has a very narrow blessing, a very small space between those eyebrows. Now you're looking at someone who has a lot less flexibility, a lot less patience. So these people, if you insert them into that corporate structure, they're going to see that they're the low person on the totem pole. They're going to see the top person on the totem pole, and they're automatically going to believe that they deserve to be that guy or that girl, and they're going to leapfrog in as many ways as they can to get that top spot. They're going to bypass corporate culture. They may engage in more narcissistic or sociopathic behavior. Doesn't mean if you have a narrow space here that you're a sociopath. What it means is you have a lot less patience for ritual, structure, and protocol. These people often do much better as entrepreneurs than as part of corporate America. Okay. So that's the first thing we're going to look for. Once we see somebody, we want to look at their eyebrows. Are they strong or not? Are they far apart or not? Are they average or not? Remember, there's going to be a lot of averages. When we look at a profile, we want to create a profile, we want to look at the outliers. We want to look at the things that are out of proportion first, because those are going to be the greatest points of data acquisition. They're the things that are going to stand out. So that's the low-hanging fruit. So that's what we collect first. Okay. Questions on the eyebrows? Okay. France, what do you mean? Okay. The shape isn't a very good question. I need to know more about what you mean by the shape. There are a lot of things that we can tell by the shape of the brow. I could spend an entire day on nothing but eyebrows. Seriously, I could spend a day on eyebrows. The arch in the eyebrow is an indicator of decisiveness. In fact, one of the things we look at in terms of, from a business perspective, when we are going to look at face reading and we have a job description, we have a job to fill, or an opening to fill, and it takes a certain personality type, to fill that, to do well in that position, to thrive in that position. So the arch in the eyebrow, the more arched the eyebrow is, the more decisive a person tends to be. The less of a curve or arch the eyebrow has, the more indecisive a person tends to be. These people, the flatter the eyebrow, the longer that person will take to make a decision. Now, there are lots of job descriptions where people who take a long time to make a decision is a good thing. There are many, many places where that is going to be a major liability, right? So let me show you example. Let me give you a couple quick examples of what this looks like. So let me erase this really quick. So just to put a cherry on this, so what you're seeing here is what we call a classic strong eyebrow, right? It's not well groomed. You'll see it's not very precise, but it is very full, right? Now this is a healthy eyebrow. So this again is full, but you notice here how much more streamlined. Oops. Notice here how much better defined the eyebrow is here. Now, the important thing to understand about this eyebrow before we move on. No, this person would not necessarily be very decisive. But they would tend to get along well with other people, because even though it's the brow is a little bit flat here, right? It does have a nice little curve to it, especially on their public face. So these people tend to be a little bit more accommodating in their public life as opposed to their private life, where they tend to be a little less diplomatic and a lot more indecisive, right? But again, we're here to look at the big pictures, right? Now, one of the things that you'll learn in face reading, when you come to face reading in a few days, we'll talk about narcissism. Narcissism can be seen in the eyebrows. Specifically, in very full, oops. Specifically in very full and well manicured eyebrows. The thing about this eyebrow that I want to point out, it is very full and it's very well formed, but it's not groomed. Karen, as far as I know, the question Karen's asking is, does the public and private side of the face change if they are right-handed or left-handed? To the best of my knowledge, no. Lillian was very adamant that right side is public, left side is private, handedness doesn't matter. Okay? So she was actually quite adamant about that. But you can always test it. Like I said, don't take anything I say at face value, no pun intended, but test it all, right? So when we look at people and we're scanning for narcissistic qualities, narcissistic people will tend to have very full eyebrows or very artificially engineered eyebrows. In other words, they'll be super manicured, tweezed, plucked, tattooed. Because there's narcissism tends to lend itself to a much higher degree of vanity and aesthetics. And so you'll often see very, very prominent eyebrows that are very well groomed and well manicured in people who are higher on the narcissistic spectrum. Now, remember, and this is important, every human being on the planet is a narcissist. You have your nervous system by its very nature is narcissistic. Everything about it centers around itself. Human beings are inherently self-referential. This is why I began the training today with the idea and the concept that the human nervous system does not resist itself. The thing about when you'll learn this in Defense Against the Dark Arts, if you've got your package and you start going through it, you'll learn that narcissists, once you understand them, are actually some of the easiest people in the world to manipulate. Because you know what they're going to do. You know what their priorities are. And as long as you frame things properly, they'll behave in a very predictable way. But every human being, but remember that narcissism isn't a disease. It can be pathological for sure, but narcissism is a spectrum. It's a spectrum. And all of us fall somewhere on that spectrum. And so we need to embrace and understand this. We don't have to like it, but we do have to work with it if we want to transcend it. The difference is narcissistic people, the further they go on that spectrum, the more dangerous they can become. Right? But one of the ways you'll see is a high level of vanity and clothing choices, grooming, things of that nature. So Anthony's asking, I think the question comes from where the mind sits peering out. I have the same question. Oh, so that goes back to the whole lefty, right? I've told you what I know. I have not seen a deviation yet from left side private, right side public, regardless of their handedness. And we have a bunch of lefties in our class. So is this helpful? Is this useful? Is this something you can use? Shane's liking it. Okay, great. Let me look at participants. Okay. Next. So we're gonna look at a couple more eyebrows, then I'm gonna move on to the mouth, and I think that's probably all we'll have time for. But for those of you coming to face reading, we will get the whole treatment in spades. Runham says helpful and useful opens up one another. Yeah, this is a very deep well, and it's one that is very much worth having an understanding of. I haven't found a single aspect of my life where this isn't useful. Whether it's diagnosing patients, whether it's working with my kids, my wife, whatever. I find that this is just like influence is an all-important life skill, right? And I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to get the training I got from the person I got it from. She gave me such a deep toolkit, I guess is the best way to say it, to build on, and foundations. So let's go and look at a couple more eyebrows just to get an idea of what we're dealing with. Okay, so thin eyebrows, right? Sparse eyebrows. Again, we don't have time to go into all of these. These are long eyebrows, right? Short eyebrows. As you can see, there's a lot. This is our classic unibrow, right? Once again, very masculine eyebrow, but you see it on a very feminine face, right? These people have a lot of get up and go, right? These people have extra levels of athleticism or Now remember, this is creativity as well. This is a passion. It's a drive, right? And so this has to be expressed. It's coming out one way or the other, but these people do not like to be told what to do. Now I'll give you a little behavioral hack. That's kind of not fair, but it is. I'll tell you something. These people love to be the hero. Let me say that 2 more times. People with these kind of brows and brow bones, they love to be the hero. And they will work harder for you if they think they're bailing you out or helping you than if you're paying them. In fact, if you're paying them, they'll often think that they should be the boss instead of you, right? Again, we'll talk about this more in face reading, but these are what we call mad scientist eyebrows. These are people with the proverbial Mr. Fix-It brains, right? What did I want to show you? Oh, that's what I wanted to show you. Oh, this is the action-oriented eyebrow. You see here how there's literally like just a dash. It's like someone just went, Choom! Right? This person they're at the stoplight, the light's turning yellow, they're already going. Right? They're ready, fire, aim. Like they go. Right? So contrast that with somebody who has an eyebrow that's more of this. Right? Super decisive, super quick thinker. This person's gonna take their own sweet time. So Julie's saying, can personality traits change if eyebrows are manicured? There's enough evidence, anecdotally speaking, to say quite possibly, yes. I've heard stories, and I've been given techniques by other face reading instructors, in addition to Lillian, that say changes to the facial architecture can result in changes of personality, temperament, or physicality. In other words, your access to skills and abilities, those can change. Right? We don't have a lot of empirical or scientific research to study that. We do have a lot of case studies and anecdotal evidence that that's true. Now, that being said, where's I going to go with this? There seems to be more of an impact to your face based on the lifestyle you choose and the emotional life you're leading. So the life you're leading and the choices you're making behaviorally and environmentally will change your face faster long term. They'll be much. And what I mean by that is, yes, you can change your face faster by going and getting cosmetic surgery, right? We get that. But what I'm saying is that the changes in your facial architecture will become more reliably predictive of what that person's internal world is like because of the lifestyle changes, right? Like I said, we don't have a lot of scientific evidence to show that intentionally adding more bone to somebody's face or taking more bone out will change their personality. We have a lot of anecdotal ones, but we do have some pretty solid evidence that your environment will change your face, and that will change your personality. Right. So my 60,000 foot view says yes. Cosmetic surgery or cosmetic applications will change things. The only thing I can't predict is the direction and the degree. Okay. But there is quite a bit of anecdotal evidence, case studies, things of that nature to support that is a definite maybe. I don't want to sound flippant or, like I'm making excuses. We just haven't done the research on it. Right. But the things we do know, like the traits that we've cataloged from the Chinese systems through the large data systems research and stuff like that, that's pretty significant. But I wanted to show you what a very action-oriented eyebrow. You can see he's almost missing the other half of his eyebrow or her eyebrow, right? So there should be another eyebrow here, right? Now, one of the things you want to measure when we look at decisiveness, right? And again, this is not part of what we were going to talk about today, but you want to measure where the eyebrow begins to where the angle of the eyebrow begins to where the eyebrow actually ends. The length between the beginning of the eyebrow and the angle will tell us the interval, how fast or how long it takes for a person to make the decision. If that angle happens here, this person will reach a decision faster than this person will, right? If it goes longer, this person will take longer to reach that decision. They'll still do it faster than somebody who has a horizontal eyebrow. Okay. So a couple good questions. All right, so let me jump out of the PowerPoint for this because I'm going to answer your question. But before I do, let me just remind you, we're coming up on our time limit. I've already gone 3 hours, and I could be here all night. Like I said, I could literally spend a day on just eyebrows and brow bones, right? For those of you who are on the fence, once again, this is our last call. Secrets of Face Reading, 1997 value. You're going to get Defense Against the Dark Arts, Identity by Design Home Study Course, People Reading for Fun and Profit, 3-month NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Trial Archive, Face Reading for Fun and Profit, Level 2, Face Reading for Fun and Profit Live, and then, of course, the 3-day Virtual Healing Intensive. Total value on this is $15,229. All you got to do to get yours for just $797. Guys, do the math. Come on, right? Three easy installments of $397 each. Go to nlppower.com/face. Just click that link and you'll get all this stuff and a whole bunch more. One last thing. If you have questions, give us a call at 858-282-4663. If you call and the line is busy, please, 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 please leave your name and contact information. Because if you call and you don't get through, but you leave your name and contact information, you will qualify for the bonuses tonight. Okay? If you call and do not leave your contact information and you call tomorrow, you will not qualify for the fast action bonuses. Now, the other thing, the fast action bonuses that I talked about, the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Trial, the Face Reading for Fun and Profits live class, the healing intensive, all that good stuff, that's only available while I am live on the webinar tonight. So literally, guys, when I log off tonight's webinar, all this stuff goes away. You have this until 11:59 p.m. tonight. If you click that link before I log off, you get all this. And you get it for this, right? But if you wait until after the webinar, this goes away. You can still get this for this, right? I'm just putting it out there. I'm making it very explicit for people. Now I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. So if you haven't clicked your link, go ahead and do that now. All right. So let's start with the questions here. So Admit Audacity is asking, wondering about a desired brow to have for a female. That is a really great question. And it really depends on context. There's no such thing as a bad eyebrow. So let's be very clear. And this is one of the things that I got from my teacher that you won't find a lot in other people's face reading systems, especially the Asian ones. One of the things that Lillian noticed, and she was half Chinese, that Lillian noticed about the Chinese face reading systems was that they tended to skew very negative and very pessimistic about facial traits. And so Lillian went out of her way to try and frame every feature as having really good parts, really good aspects to it, and some detriments to it. Whereas if you went to a classically trained face reader, they say, oh, you're lazy. Oh, you're sloppy. Oh, you're going to be poor. Or you're going to marry a bad husband. They just go right to the negative shit. Now, the idea wasn't to make you feel bad about yourself. The idea was they would tell you these things so that you could be better. And that's one of the characteristics of a lot of Chinese culture, because my wife is Chinese. I have Chinese in-laws. I've seen the product of this upbringing. It's not that they don't love their children, or it's they want their children to be better. And so they just always are finding all the things that they're weak at, right? Which has side effects, as you can imagine. But that cultural thing tended to carry across into most approaches to face reading. Lillian went very much a different direction. She was very sensitive to the fact that you're opening up a person's most personal, intimate, vulnerable aspect. And so she would be very, very clear about coming at things with a, she would always find a way to complement a feature first and then tell you all the different aspects of it so that you were always felt better about yourself. Right? So when we talk about the desired eyebrow for female, that's not something that you could say is a standard. It could be a cultural thing, but a lot of it is going to be based on what do you want for your life, right? Are you somebody who wants to be the cruise director, like Julie on Love Boat, who's very outgoing, very social, very supportive, very positive, very loving, very nurturing? Are you somebody like Frida Kahlo, I think is her last name, who's super aggressive, wants to chart her own course, create powerful works of art, and just be her own boss, right? And just do things her way and not worry about what anybody else has to say, right? Different eyebrows are going to give you different characters and temperaments. And what makes it ideal is it giving you the life you want? Is it generating with you the behaviors and the lifestyle that gives you the life you want to have? Certainly, if what the anecdotal and case studies that we've encountered are true, we can change aspects of ourselves by changing the architecture, right? I, for one, do it a lot because eyebrows are one of them, in terms of social influence, the eyebrows are one of the most powerful and important communication tools that we have. In this context, we're using eyebrows as a means of profiling people, of understanding their character, their temperament, not the character, their personality and their temperament, their predispositions behaviorally, right? From an aspect of interpersonal communication, aside from the eyes themselves and the mouth, there is no other feature that generates more information and conveys more information dynamically for influence and persuasion than the eyebrows. And so one of the things that I do, and I'll tell you right up front, I darken my eyebrows every time I teach a webinar. Why? Because you're going to judge me based on that, on the fullness of my eyebrows. And if you can't see them, that's going to have ramifications too, right? This is why actors wear makeup, right? There are certain attributes that have an influence connotation to them, right? So for Shane, 7 seconds, facial width and size, eyebrow width, eyebrow fullness. Okay, there's 4 traits right there that you can look at in less than 2 seconds. Okay. Have I noticed the trends? Now women are painting. Yes. Yes, I've noticed the trend. Okay. So once again, when we look at somebody, we want to look at their face, the size of their face. We want to look at the dominance of their 3 zones. We want to look at the space between their eyebrows, the fullness and the length of their eyebrow, the arch of the eyebrow, right? And then we can look at the mouth. Okay. And I don't have time to do mouths tonight, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll have time to do that at the training. Let me see if there's any other questions that I missed. Shane is saying, is there a way for someone who has straight eyebrows to make decisions faster? Yes. Yes, in fact. Here's the thing. Here's what I love about face reading. It's a feedback loop. If I intentionally engage in the behaviors, intentionally and consciously engage in the behaviors that are different from my facial traits, my facial traits will start to change. This is one of the things that is a little bit on the woo side, but I absolutely love about the Chinese face reading systems is that your face changes as your emotional balances and proportions change. So if I come up with a process or a model, to use an NLP word, that allows me to make decisions faster and I put myself in an environment where I can apply that strategy and just having to keep making decisions faster and faster and faster, my eyebrows will develop an arch. They'll literally develop an arch, or they'll become more arched because of the environment and the behaviors I'm engaging in. Seven seconds. I'm testing this. Thanks for the insight. Okay, good. Okay. So Brennan was asking about, how about facial scarring from accidents or incidents? Those can absolutely have an impact, and they can have a very predictive or prognosticative influence as well. So yeah, any change to the facial architecture can result in a change in personality or temperament. So I'd ask, his brow artists do measure to find a brow? Yes. Tara is asking, I speak from experience. I used to shave my eyebrows and draw them on, get Botox, etc. I stopped doing all that, and I'm a very different person. Thank you. Great. Awesome. Thank you, Tara. Anthony's asking, going into posture, acting class is on my list. I'm a robot most of the time. Yeah, start with a basic acting class, then go into method, and then graduate to improv. And I think you'll find yourself having a lot more fun at parties and just being able to tap into that and becoming much more influential and charismatic in general, right? Best hypnotists on the planet are actors. Their whole job is to suck you out of your reality and brain deep into theirs without you even realizing it's happening sometimes. So I can't say enough about acting training for people who want to be good at influence. Okay. That being said, last call, so to speak. Right. Once again, go ahead and click your links. If Mia and Moss, if you'll go ahead and post the links so people can grab their last minute calls, you'll get all this stuff. Remember, when I log off, all the stuff in blue and below goes away. So you're going to get the Secrets of Face Reading home study course. You're going to get Defense Against the Dark Arts, Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design home study course, People Reading for Fun and Profit, NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, the 3-month trial archive, Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2, Face Reading Live 3-day certification bootcamp, and of course, a 3-day virtual healing intensive from the comfort of your own home. It's a $15,229 value. You're going to get it all for just one low installment of $797, or you can break that up into 3 installments of $397 each. And remember, after you click the link and you show up in person for face reading, I will waive the prerequisites for NLP practitioner certification in May. So again, that's only good if you show up in person, right? If you show up virtually, you still got to do the prereqs. Good news for you is you got them on video, but you still have to do the live. So anyway, that's my job. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I love you all. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started. And before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends. God bless. Click those links before it's too late. And we'll see you on the other side. Good night and God bless. Take care.